Chapter 144. In the cinema with the lights off, Lu Qing couldn't calm down. He couldn't help but look at Yanjika beside him, waiting for the amazing wizard to enter a relatively ordinary stage, so that he could give her the gift and kiss her without disturbing her mood. So far, everything had gone according to his expectations. The 2 rows behind him and the seats around him were almost empty, so he didn't have to worry about being stared at and making her feel shy and awkward. The movie was also very good, and the little details were very warm and funny, making her laugh in a low voice from time to time, full of happiness. The environment was dark and private, suitable for fermenting intimate feelings. In other words, everything was ready, except for the east wind. Thinking of this, Lu Cheng's mouth was a little dry. He pursed his lips and reached out to touch the gift in his pocket. It was a colorful gold bracelet. He had combined various suggestions from the internet and chosen the ones that he thought were reasonable. Now he had his own opinion on the first gift between lovers. Regardless of the type of gift that the other party lacked or liked, the first time one gave a gift to a lover was definitely when both parties had just started dating, or even when they hadn't officially started dating. They were far from knowing each other well enough, and their tastes and preferences had yet to be fully exposed. In this case, the first gift must be one that could evoke good memories of each other. It was suitable for couples who had known each other for a long time. Looking at it could remind them of the warmth of the past. This could reflect the intention of the gift giver and the memories of the relationship. However, Lu Qing thought that he had only known Yanjika for half a year, and had only dated her for 10 days. Giving such a gift was still lacking in depth and atmosphere. He planned to look for his little notebook on the anniversary of their relationship, and edit some words and scenes to make a corresponding gift. Eliminating the first choice, when a guy still couldn't grasp the details of a girl's aesthetic standards, he should never ask for something fresh, unique, and original. In that case, with a man's poor aesthetic standards, it was very likely that he wouldn't be able to get his girlfriend's point. She would be moved by the gift but unable to complain at the same time. When she went back, she would hide it in a corner, and only keep it as a souvenir. Therefore, at this time, it was not wrong to follow the rules. The classic was not necessarily bad, but at least it would not make the surprise turn into a shock. The value of the gift should not be too cheap, and it should be the best within the limits of one's ability. The kind that was cheap and unique could wait for future opportunities. The first time always had a special meaning. After careful consideration, Lu Qing decided to give up the idea for the time being. He decided to buy a bracelet together in the future. Instead, he chose a bracelet that could be adjusted to fit the size of the bracelet. When it came to the specific purchase, he thought that gold was too vulgar and not suitable for young people. He couldn't afford platinum and diamonds, so he finally settled on the more fashionable colored gold. With rose pink as the base, 6 small hearts were strung together. One was golden, and the other was silver. It was quite beautiful and was worth nearly 1,000 yuan. Of course, whether it was beautiful or not was just a conclusion that Lu Qing came to based on the opinions of the girls in the evaluation, and his own feelings. But Yanjika was not a girl after all. She had her own aesthetic standards. Whether she would think it was beautiful or not was still unknown. He could only say that such a bracelet would not be too ugly for her. After touching the bracelet, Lu Qing looked at Yanjika beside him restlessly. He saw that under the dim light of the big screen, the girl had a faint sense of beauty. Her outline was extremely delicate. Looking at Yanjika's smile, Lu Qing quietly took a breath and leaned over. His left hand slowly stretched out of his pocket. At this moment, Yanjika suddenly moved closer. She was afraid to disturb others and whispered with a smile, "It's so funny. That owl just now was so silly and cute." Lu Qing was startled and put his left hand back. Seeing that the girl was staring at the screen with bright eyes and focusing on the plot, he felt a strong sense of guilt for interrupting her. "Let's wait a little longer. When the plot is not so interesting." He made up his mind and leaned his head to Yanjika, whispering in her ear, "Yeah, that owl was so silly and happy." Being close to her, Lu Qing smelled the light and sweet fragrance of the girl, and felt her hair brushing his face due to his breath. He was instantly intoxicated and enjoyed this closeness. They talked about the plot intermittently, and in a low voice for a while. His nose was full of the girl's beautiful smell. He could not help but feel restless and put his left hand into his pocket. I'm so worried. Will he die? Yenjika suddenly grabbed Lu Cheng's right hand and looked at the screen nervously without blinking. How could I interrupt her like this? Lu Cheng felt like crying but had no tears. He put the bracelet back. Phew, that's good. After a while, Yenjika exhaled and looked at Lu Cheng. She lowered her voice and said, Cheng, why are you acting so weird? I was also very worried just now. Lu Cheng answered sadly. Yeah, I'm super nervous. Yenjika agreed. Lu Cheng enjoyed the close communication between the two of them, looking for opportunities again and again. However, Yenjika had been watching the movie attentively and seriously for the whole time without a pee. Next time, I'll choose a less interesting movie next time. Lu Cheng silently clenched his fist and regretted. He gave up the idea of kissing in disappointment and concentrated on the intimacy. Unknowingly, the movie ended and the ending song and thank you list began. Yenjika tried to sit up straight and wait for the lights to turn on. At this moment, Lu Cheng's right hand that was holding hers tightened slightly and pulled her back. Yenjika was afraid that if she sat up straight it would affect Lu Cheng's wound. She gave up and looked at Lu Cheng with a pair of slightly innocent eyes in confusion. Lu Cheng took a breath and said the lines that he had practiced over and over again. Beauty, you dropped something. Ah. Yenjika looked confused. She was so cute that Lu Cheng almost forgot to take out the gift. At this moment, the lights turned on. Lu Cheng took out his left hand from his pocket and said with a smile, You dropped a bracelet. While speaking, he let go of his right hand and held the girl's wrist. With the help of his left hand, he put on the bracelet with difficulty. Yenjika was stunned at first. When she saw it clearly, she suddenly raised her right hand and covered her mouth. Her eyes were shining like water. She was surprised and happy at the same time. When she saw Lu Cheng's clumsy movements because of the inconvenience of his right hand, her eyebrows curved and her smile was gentle and tender. Very beautiful. She took back her hand and looked at it carefully. She lowered her eyebrows and smiled gently. Her face was full of surprise and blush. Lu Cheng saw that the girl was really happy and became very happy himself. He smiled and said, It's good that you like it. Yenjika smiled and blurted out, Why do you want to give me a bracelet? As soon as the words came out, she was annoyed. How could there be so many reasons for a gift between lovers? She didn't need to ask too much in case she lost the hazy beauty. What should I do? I was stupid just now. Humph, it must be Cheng who infected me. He must be the one who infected me. One is marked by one's company. Lu Cheng was stunned by the question and didn't know how to answer. Should he say that he just thought it was more beautiful and more suitable? After thinking for a while, he had an idea and said with a cheeky smile, When I'm not with you, this bracelet will hold your hand for me. Yenjika rolled her eyes at him and held his hand. She looked to the side and said, Let's go and eat. I'm so hungry. Seeing that the audience in the cinema was leaving, Lu Cheng had to give up the idea of kissing her completely. He took the girl and went to the stone fish shop nearby. This shop was very special. The fish was first cut into thin slices, and the bones and non-essential parts were boiled with pickled cabbage and other seasonings. Then a wooden barrel was served to the customer. The barrel was lined with specially selected and cleaned stones and heated until they were boiling hot. Then the fish slices were put on the barrel, and the fish soup was poured in. After a short wait, the fish was ready to eat. The fish meat was tender and fragrant, and the soup was sour and fresh, which was very appetizing. The special way of cooking made Yenjika very interested. When the fish was ready, she couldn't wait to taste the fish slices. After drinking the soup, she said to Lu Cheng proudly, It's really good. The soup is very delicious. Hehe, are you hungry? With your dexterous left hand, you can't pick up such thin fish slices. Beg me, I'll help you. Looking at the girl's proud face, Lu Cheng immediately put on a pitiful look. Coach Yen, please do me a favor. I'm dying of hunger. Yenjika nodded proudly and gave him many slices of fish slices and a bowl full of soup. Then she started to satisfy her own appetite. After eating for a while, Lu Cheng raised his head and said, I want to eat. The rice and soup must be very delicious. I think so too. Yenjika was happy as if she had found a bosom friend. The two of them ate 3 small wooden buckets of rice before they were satisfied and slowed down their pace. They then began to talk about various things. By the way, you still don't know Coach Sher's name, right? Yenjika asked with a smile. She couldn't help but play with the bracelet with her right hand. She seemed to like it very much. No one knew whether it was because she really thought it was beautiful, or because the person who gave it to her was the right person. Luqing was very happy to see this, as if his efforts were rewarded. He shook his head and said, I don't know. I was injured that day, so I didn't take the initiative to get the ticket for Coach Sher. I suggested to get it for him, but he refused. I suspect there's something wrong with his full name. Yenjika put on a I'm a famous detective look. Is Coach Sher a wanted criminal? Luqing blurted out. How is that possible? Have you ever seen a wanted criminal with such a good relationship with the police? And the headmaster wouldn't ask for a master whose background is unknown. Yenjika denied this possibility and guessed with a smile. I suspect his full name is very rustic or funny, which doesn't match his identity as a mighty one with physical invulnerability. That's why he doesn't want us to know. That makes sense. Is his name Sher? Luqing guessed happily. They didn't leave until it was almost 8 o'clock. The restaurant was priced at ordinary prices, so with Luqing's appetite, they only ate a little more than 200 yuan. In order to catch the last bus back to the new campus, Luqing didn't propose to take a walk nearby to help with digestion. Instead, he accompanied Yenjika by the roadside, waiting for the arrival of the online taxi. At this time, he remembered that there was a flower shop dozens of meters away. After the gift, I need to give her a bunch of flowers to make it perfect. Luqing looked at his phone and found that the online taxi would take at least 6 or 7 minutes to arrive because of the traffic jam. He pointed to the daily supermarket behind him and said, I'll buy some snacks for you. Through their daily chat, he was sure that Yenjika wasn't allergic to pollen. No, I have a bunch of them at my place. They're all from you. Yenjika shook her head. Luqing bought them online, but he didn't think they were official gifts. Well, I'll go buy a bottle of water. I'm a little thirsty. You wait here for the taxi. Luqing suggested deliberately. Okay, hurry up. Yenjika nodded with a smile. Under her gaze, Luqing entered the daily supermarket and quickly bought a bottle of water. While Yenjika was looking back at the online taxi, he ran to the flower shop dozens of meters away. His speed was so fast that he felt it was no less than a pouncing attack in a martial arts competition. 11 roses. Luqing shouted while taking out his wallet. Pack it simply. ASAP. Just pack it. Even better if there is a finished product. After paying, he took the roses, put them on his back and ran back to the place where he waited for the taxi. Yenjika was looking at the daily supermarket in confusion. She felt that Luqing was too slow and suspected that he really went to buy snacks. How did you come back from there? Yenjika asked in surprise when she saw Luqing approaching. Luqing calmed down and said with a smile, Beauty, you dropped another thing. Your flowers. He stretched out his left hand in front of him, not giving Yenjika a chance to guess. Yenjika's mouth was half open and her eyes moved. She couldn't help laughing. I seem to have dropped a lot of things today. She held the flowers with both hands and her eyebrows and eyes were full of joy. Luqing laughed and said, Yeah, you also dropped your boyfriend. Do you want to take it back? While speaking, he stretched out his left hand. Humph, you're reluctant. Yenjika held the flowers in her left hand and Luqing in her right. For the first time, she took the initiative to intertwine their fingers. They successfully caught the last bus at 8:45. Yenjika looked radiant and held the roses in her hand. When Luqing held her hand and walked to the empty seats in the back row, he felt the complicated gazes of many male students. 2 of them in the first row looked very pale, as if they were dead. Luqing secretly remembered it and pulled Yenjika, who was looking out of the window, to the second row from the back. He lowered his voice and said, Did those 2 guys chase after you? Yenjika hit him with both anger and amusement. You still ask? She thought for a moment and said in a low voice, One of the boys in my school chased me but I rejected him. He was actually a good guy, but I just didn't like him. You like guys like me? Lucheng was secretly proud and smiled. The other one also seems to have a crush on you. I don't know. Anyway, he didn't mention it. It's good to be seen directly. I hope they can find their own girl soon. Yenjika gave her blessing. In that row of seats, the two boys looked at each other and sighed together. When they returned to the new campus, the night breeze was cool, refreshing and cold. Seeing that it was not yet 9:30 and that he hadn't completely given up on his first kiss today, Lucheng tried his last effort and said, "It's still early. Let's go for a walk by the lake to digest?" As soon as he finished speaking, he wanted to slap himself. What kind of excuse was this? Dinner had been over for so long. How could he digest it? Furthermore, it wasn't early at this time. Feeling guilty, he didn't dare to look at her. Through her hands, Lucheng felt that Yenjika's pulse suddenly sped up and slightly trembled. "Are you cold?" he asked with concern. Yenjika lowered her eyes and looked to the side. She answered softly, "Not cold. Well, a walk is good." "Okay." Lucheng was pleasantly surprised. He didn't expect the girl to agree. It seemed that she was in a good mood because of the date today. She wanted to stay with him for a while. He took the girl into the road leading to the lake. While chatting, they slowly walked farther and farther along the lake. Gradually, there was no one around. Thump, thump, thump. Lucheng's heartbeat suddenly sped up. He was thinking about what excuse to find and what opportunity to create. This made his mouth dry and tongue dry. He didn't know what to say and fell into an abnormal silence. Yenjika didn't say anything either. She seemed to be enjoying the silence. Thump, thump, thump. Lucheng's heart beat faster and faster. However, he also heard Yenjika's heart beat faster and faster. He heard her body couldn't stop trembling. Is she afraid that I will do something bad? Or is she not used to dating in the dark? Lucheng swallowed his saliva and turned to Yenjika with difficulty. He asked nervously, "Is it too dark here?" After that, he wanted to slap himself again. The street lights were high up. How was it dark? At this moment, he saw Yenjika lowered her head. Her cheeks were flushed under the light. She was shy and timid. The girl slightly opened her mouth and said in a low voice. It was like a small hand scratching Lucheng's heart. Lucheng held his breath. He felt that the girl was extremely beautiful. His heart was surging. He pulled her into his arms. A hug shouldn't make her angry, right? He had hugged her before. Yenjika didn't struggle. She leaned into Lucheng's arms softly. Her long black eyelashes trembled slightly, covering her eyes. Smelling the fragrance of hair and flowers, feeling the girl's delicate body, and looking at this seductive scene, Lucheng's mind buzzed. Blood rushed to his head. Slowly, he lowered his head and moved closer to the girl's lips. Don't refuse. He prayed silently. Yenjika's eyelids fluttered and slowly closed. Her pretty face was flushed red. Touching skin, Lucheng's heart beat fast. He was very excited. Yenjika's body was tight at first, then relaxed. She completely snuggled in Lucheng's arms. The bouquet of flowers in her hand fell to the ground. You big pervert. After a long time, Yenjika was too shy to look up. She clenched her fist and hit the place where Lucheng's chest and shoulder met. Lucheng panted. He was more tired than after beating Wei Xingtian. But he was very satisfied. He was so excited that he felt like he was flying to the sky. He enjoyed the girl's gentle hit. He smiled and didn't respond. He was like an old cat that had stolen a fish. The first kiss was so sweet and beautiful. After a long time, Yenjika slowly calmed down. She still didn't dare to look up. Let's go back. Wait a minute. I want to hug you again. Lucheng replied gently, but his expression was a little embarrassed. The real reason for not going back immediately was that he had set up a tent below. If he moved, it would be exposed immediately. The girl would definitely think that he was a big hooligan with impure thoughts. He thought in distress. He felt that he was wronged. He didn't think about anything just now. He was wholeheartedly thinking about tasting Yenjika's little mouth. He didn't have any dirty thoughts at all. Sigh, I'm in the stage of a young man full of vigor. Because of practicing martial arts, my chi and blood have reached a certain level. It's just a kiss and I've set up a tent for a long time. He bent down, sucked in his stomach, and arched his buttocks back. He didn't want the girl to notice the abnormality of his lower body. A sentence that he once saw flashed in his mind. You have to know how to cherish the age when you'll be hard for a long time just by kissing. In order not to arouse the girl's suspicion, he silently prayed to all the gods and Buddhas. With the help of the Jindan, he concealed his spirit and chi and visualized the scene of water turning into ice. But this was no longer lake water. It was boiling water. In Yenjika's dormitory, the three girls Li Liantong, Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang returned to their own dormitory after watching The Amazing Wizard in the school cinema and chatting about the plot. Hey, Ka hasn't come back yet? Shi Xiangyang asked in surprise. Li Liantong chuckled and said, It's a date. Besides watching movies and eating, there must be other things to do. Yesterday, I specifically told Ka that boys like to suggest going to the lake to enjoy the scenery or to take a walk in the woods. When there's no one around and it's dark and windy at night, they can take advantage of her. I told her not to believe the nonsense of boys and let them take her to those places to kiss and touch her body. Yes. With my reminder, she'll definitely be alert and won't let that guy get what he wants easily. Humph, how dare he not please us? While they were talking, Yenjika pushed open the door and came in with flowers in her hand. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes were glowing. She was so beautiful that people didn't dare to look at her directly. Seeing that she was still blushing and her eyes were intoxicating, Li Liantong asked worriedly and nosily, Don't tell me you were still taken to the lake to enjoy the scenery or to take a walk in the woods by that guy? I spent so much effort to teach her. Yenjika's pretty face turned redder. She turned her head and looked to the side. She said firmly, No. We went to the lake to take a walk, not to enjoy the scenery. Li Liantong looked at her suspiciously. Suddenly, her attention was attracted by the colorful gold bracelet on her wrist. She asked curiously, I remember that you don't wear a bracelet when you go out. Did he give it to you? Yes. Yenjika breathed a sigh of relief and looked down at the bracelet. Her eyebrows and the corners of her eyes reappeared. It's quite ordinary, Li Liantong commented with arms crossed. But for a straight man's aesthetic standards, it's not bad to have such standards. Yenjika rubbed the heart-shaped bracelet and smiled. She nodded slightly and said, Yes, I think it's okay. She said to herself silently. Anyway, I like it very much. The most important thing is the thought. Zhong Yanru also smiled and said, It's fine as long as it's not ugly. You'll have to teach his aesthetic standards slowly in the future. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled lightly. She didn't say anything. Her right hand touched her lips subconsciously, and she recalled the experience just now. Her cheeks burned again and her eyes slightly lost focus, as if she was drunk. After sending the girl back to the dormitory, Lu Qing logged into QQ with his mobile phone and sent her a happy emoji. Then he walked through the pedestrian street with light steps while recalling the sweetness of his first kiss. Life is so beautiful. Chapter 145. After returning to the dormitory of the 7th building, Lu Qing finally calmed down a little after the cold night wind. He was no longer so excited and intoxicated. When he woke up, he suddenly had a lot of worries. Would this progress be too fast for Yenjika? Would she be unable to accept it? Would she resist it psychologically? Would she think that he was too impatient and focus more on the physical than the emotional level? He had thought about these things before, so the plan of the first kiss was more of a test. When he really succeeded, he was a little worried about the gains and losses. He was afraid that he would ruin the girl's impression of him. But at that moment, he really couldn't control himself. He wasn't facing another girl, but the girl he loved. She was shy and timid, ready to let him do whatever he wanted. If he couldn't control himself, he would be worse than a beast. Lu Qing found a corner of the flower bed and sat down. Holding the phone, he thought about whether he should apologize to Yenjika or not. No, apologizing after kissing her is not a man's responsibility. It will make the girl think that I just want to take advantage of her. I need to show a responsible attitude and treat her better. Although there were a lot of comments on the internet, such as women can't marry, men can't marry, and sex is normal, Lu Qing felt that he might be a conservative person who hadn't experienced too many setbacks in society. After holding her hand and kissing her lips, he would think of words like forever, and so on. While he was thinking, his QQ beeped. Yenjika replied to him with a happy emoji and said, "I don't talk to you, big pervert." Seeing such a reply, Lu Qing was not surprised but happy. He felt that the girl was more angry than angry. He was relieved and replied with a pitiful expression, "I couldn't control myself at the moment." At the moment? Yenjika sent an emoji of rolling its eyes at the sky. "Humph, I thought about it carefully. I think you have a premeditated plan. Tell me the truth. Did you have bad intentions when you asked me to take a walk by the lake?" How could she see through this? Lu Qing blushed and felt very guilty. He was glad that the girl wasn't with him through the phone. He thought for a while and decided to be honest. He told the girl his thoughts and did not try to hide anything. "Yes. Not only did I want to kiss you when we went to the lakeside, but I also wanted to kiss you in the movie theater. But I saw that you were too focused on the movie, so I didn't have the heart to disturb you. I couldn't find a chance. Maybe guys are more impulsive and impatient, so they always want to get closer to you. Also, when you accepted my confession, didn't you say that you still needed time to get used to it? That you weren't ready to have another person in your life, and that you weren't at the stage where you especially liked me?" "I'm not trying to pressure you. I'm just afraid that you'll leave me one day and tell me that I should return to my original position. That's why I'm always eager for more certainty and confirmation." He carefully typed the paragraph and changed a few of the words in order to more accurately describe his feelings. He still remembered Xiaoming's words. In the world of love, it was better to be honest than to hide, and it was better to communicate than to sulk. After sending the message, Yenjika remained silent for a while before replying with 2 words. "Idiot, idiot?" Lu Qing was a little confused by her words, but he soon realized what she was implying. "Idiot. If I wasn't used to it and wasn't prepared, would I let you kiss me without resistance? Idiot. Do I have to say that I really like you for you to understand? Idiot. Don't let your imagination run wild by yourself." Lu Qing was surprised and happy at the same time. He felt that he had touched the girl's heart. He hurriedly replied, "Yes, I'm an idiot, a big idiot. I can clearly feel the changes between us, but I'm still worried and can't believe it." "Humph, it's good that you understand." Yenjika sent an emoji of hitting the head and said, "I'll forgive you this time, big pervert. Don't kiss me casually in the future." I can't kiss you casually?" Lu Qing snickered and regained his composure. He quickly typed, "Yes, yes, yes. I won't do it casually." After chatting for a while and confirming the time and place for tomorrow's meal, Yenjika hurriedly urged Lu Qing to wash up when she saw that it was almost 10:30. She didn't want to delay his sleep and affect tomorrow's training. Lu Qing returned to the dormitory, while humming a little song. Kai Zhongming jokingly scolded Lu Qing, flushed with success and looking lascivious. When he was ready, he got into bed and picked up his phone to say goodnight to Yenjika. He saw that the girl had sent him 3 voice messages a few minutes ago. Lu Qing opened them in confusion and put the phone to his ear, switching it to the receiver mode. "Fu Chung, be my trash can. Just listen and don't answer." Yenjika's soft and clear voice came from the phone. The environment around her seemed to be empty and quiet, mixed with the sound of the wind. "She's on the balcony." Lu Qing made a positive judgment, and continued to listen. "I'm scared. When I give up resistance and choose to accept completely, I'm full of uneasiness about the future. Chung, can we go all the way to the end? Can we hold each other's hands and go through the trials and tribulations one after another, until our hair turns white and we can't speak clearly, and still cuddle together? I'm scared. I'm scared that I'll be defeated by reality in the end when I put my heart and all my feelings into it. I can only watch you go away in pain and melancholy. If that happens, I feel that my heart will be very painful, so painful that it will be like dying. They say that first love can't go all the way to the end. I'm so worried. I'm worried that one day the person who will marry me won't be you. What a nightmare that will be. Okay, I'm done with the negative feelings. I've never thought about things like this before. It's all your fault." Lu Qing listened quietly. He felt that all the voices in the dormitory had faded away. His heart was clear, and his eyes were slightly red. He took a breath and didn't listen to Yenjika's words. He made his own answer. I'm scared too. I'm also scared of such a future. But if we don't even have the courage to try, then we're doomed to miss it. Only by trying and working hard can we have hope. I'm working hard to practice martial arts and strengthen myself. I want to be able to grasp my destiny and grasp that opportunity and that hope. Although it's funny to say this at my age, I still have to say this. I have confidence in myself and in my love. I'm destined to be you in this life. After a while, Yenjika sent a scolding emoji. I told you not to reply. Go to sleep, you big pervert. Luqing smiled and immediately said, Good night. Good night, see you tomorrow. Yenjika seemed to have forgotten the confession and answered just now. See you tomorrow. After sending this message, Luqing patiently waited for the girl's reply. He had a hunch that the girl would have other replies. After a full 10 minutes, he finally saw Yenjika's new message. Well, I'll work hard too. After reading the message seriously for a few minutes, Luqing's lips curled into a smile as he fell asleep. The next day, he followed the routine of morning exercise, special training, shower, change, and then ran to the door of the female locker room and waited for Yenjika to come out. The weather was unusually cold. Yenjika was dressed like a cute bear. When she saw Luqing, she snorted and turned her head to the side. She hummed and said, Pervert. Big pervert. Luqing couldn't help but laugh. He reached out his left hand and held her delicate palm. Yes, 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 I'm your exclusive pervert. What are you talking about? Yenjika didn't expect Luqing to be so thick-skinned. She was speechless for a moment and quickly changed the topic. Let me tell you about the other two roommates. One is called Li Liantong. We all call her Dirty Tong. While talking and laughing, the two left the martial arts arena and walked to the teaching building. They planned to go through there, get on the long bridge and return to the pedestrian street in the dormitory area. They would then go to the academy restaurant to meet Zhong Yanru and the others. As they walked, Luqing and Yenjika found a group of people in front of them. They were all looking up at the roof, so they followed them out of curiosity. They were surprised to see a boy they didn't know standing outside the window of the 7th floor, looking down. Jumping off the building. Yenjika held Luqing's hand tightly and said in a trembling voice. This was the first time she encountered such a thing. Before Songqing University moved to the new campus, 1 or 2 students jumped off the building every year. After moving here, nothing happened for more than half a year. It was said that the principal once said that the feng shui here was good. He didn't expect that someone would make the first jump today. Luqing thought quickly. He took a breath and said to Yenjika, You stay away. I'll go and take a look. Okay, be careful. Yenjika understood Luqing's idea and reminded him. When Luqing approached, he saw the boy's pale face smile and jumped down decisively. Damn. Luqing cursed in his heart. He put strength in his legs and jumped forward to the position he judged. Ignoring the injury on his right arm, he stretched out his hands in the midst of the exclamations. Bang! Under Yenjika's worried gaze, Luqing caught the boy who was about to jump off the building. As soon as he touched the boy, his feet suddenly pressed inward, causing cracks to appear on the concrete floor. The violent force bounced back. He straightened his back, lowered his arms, pulled them back, and then shook them out. The boy who fell straight down was thrown to a place not far away. His face was full of fear and confusion, as if he had finally woken up from a nightmare. Luqing exhaled. He felt that his sneakers were about to be destroyed, and the injury on his right arm was a little more serious. But no matter what, these were not as important as a human life. Seeing the teachers and security guards surrounding them and the onlookers staring at him, and the boy who was about to jump off the building, Luqing said loudly, I'm not even afraid of death. What's there to be afraid of? After saying that, he turned around and left. He met Yenjika outside the 2 schools, hiding his achievements and fame. Chapter 146. Are you okay? Yenjika asked with concern as soon as they met. Luqing moved his right arm and smiled bitterly. I'm fine, but this part seems to be more serious. Yinjika was both amused and annoyed. You treat it too badly. You keep hurting it. Apologize to it. Seeing that the boy who jumped off the building was successfully saved, her mood was not affected. I'm sorry. I'll take good care of it later. Lu Cheng readily accepted her advice and apologized to his right arm. But in fact, he was assuring Yinjika that he would not force himself to be brave and hurt himself again. Of course, if he really encountered a life-threatening situation, he would still help as long as it was within his power. Remember what you said. Yinjika looked back at the scene of the jump and sighed. In fact, there is something wrong with what you said. Some people commit suicide not because they are afraid of death, but because they don't feel any happiness in life. They feel that life is completely dark. For them, no matter how much you remind them, they feel that they deserve to die. Forget it. We don't know why that person did it. You did your best out of kindness. That's great. You don't need to think about other things. Ha! Lu Cheng was confused and didn't know what to say. Yinjika smiled gently and gracefully. Because of my cousin's mild autism, I often read about psychology and occasionally talk with their professional teachers. I know that some psychological diseases are not only caused by the mind, but also related to the physiological basis. It can't be cured by just talking about it. It must be treated with the corresponding medicine. I think I understand what you mean. Lu Cheng nodded thoughtfully. Let's not talk about him. Anyway, we don't know each other. It's better to save a life than to build a 7-floor pagoda. We don't care about what will happen to him in the future. Yinjika's attitude now was exactly the same as when she persuaded Wang Su. Lu Cheng couldn't help thinking that although he had experienced a lot and was rapidly maturing, in fact, Yinjika might be more mature than him in terms of dealing with people. She seemed to have a complete and formed 3 views. Yes, let's not talk about him. Let's go eat. Your roommate is still waiting. Don't be late. Lu Cheng stopped sighing and said. Yinjika's almond-shaped eyes widened. Eat what? Let's go to the hospital first. Isn't the injury on your arm more serious? It's just a little bit. It's not too late to go after dinner. Lu Cheng gestured with his right arm. It's your first time treating your roommates to a meal. You can't just stand them up, right? What if they badmouth me in the future? Humph, if you perform well, it's useless for them to say bad things about you. If you perform poorly, it's useless for them to say good things about you. Shouldn't you focus on pleasing me and listening to me? Yinjika pursed her lips and raised her head. You're right. Lu Cheng agreed. However, Yinjika was also a good girl who cared about her reputation. She felt embarrassed to stand her roommate up. So she looked at Lu Cheng suspiciously and asked, Are you sure it's only a little bit? I'm sure. I'm a master of meditation. And I can use inner vision. Lu Cheng said proudly. With his control over the muscles in his body, he had a rough idea of the extent of such injuries. Yinjika snorted and said, I'll accompany you to the hospital after dinner. Yes, I'll listen to you, Coach Yan. Lu Cheng answered with a smile. His heart was filled with the joy of saving a life. Because they couldn't go out of school except for weekends and holidays, the business of the Academy restaurant, as the second-to-none Chinese restaurant in the new campus, was quite good. Lu Cheng couldn't even book a table in advance. It was all thanks to Zhong Yanru, who didn't have class in the morning and came early to get a small private room, that they didn't have to wait for a number. Lu Cheng and Yinjika arrived 2 minutes earlier than agreed. The 3 girls had already gathered and waited for a while. You've seen Zhong Yanru before, so there's no need to introduce her. Yinjika pointed at the petite and quiet girl and said, She's Li Liantong. Don't be fooled by her obedient appearance. Lu Cheng didn't expect the dirty Tong Yinjika was talking about to be such a dignified and quiet girl. He was slightly surprised and smiled. Hello, I'm Lu Cheng's boyfriend. You don't have to tell us, we all know. Li Liantong joked. Yinjika ignored her and turned to introduce her last roommate to Lu Cheng. Shi Xiangyang, surgical killer. Lu Cheng saw that the so-called surgical killer was tall, almost as tall as him. Her skin was a healthy wheat color, and her eyes were a little blurred because she couldn't focus. He had deep doubts about the girl's ability to come up with nicknames in the dormitory, but on the surface he smiled and said, Hello, I heard that you all know me? He was using Li Liantong's joking to make fun of himself. Yinzhika, Li Liantong and Zhong Yanru couldn't help but laugh. Shi Xiangyang obviously didn't get the point and answered blankly, yes, yes. I'm sitting next to Lu Cheng. He hurt his right arm in the challenge tournament, so he's disabled for the time being. He needs my help to make a living. Yinzhika pulled Lu Cheng to sit down naturally and gracefully. Then she put some food in his bowl. Challenge tournament? Li Liantong asked curiously. Are you the main force of the martial arts club? Yes. Lu Cheng admitted frankly. Li Liantong didn't ask further, because in her impression, the martial arts club in her school was very weak, and only Lin Kei was strong. Moreover, the martial arts club made a big fuss last semester, but they were eliminated in the group stage. It could be seen that the other members were really weak, and the so-called main force was just SOSO. Shi Xiangyang was also not interested in this topic. She first helped Yinzhika to order the dishes, and then asked with a smile. Lu Cheng, I heard from Ke that you were high school classmates? Yes, classmates from the next class. Lu Cheng answered honestly, without any uneasiness. Only when he cared about the girl he loved would he turn into a fool. Zhong Yanru followed up and asked. Ke should be a famous person in your school, right? Of course I don't know. Lu Cheng wanted to describe how many boys deliberately passed by Yinzhika's class, but the girl secretly pinched him, so he could only stop abruptly. Did you have a little crush on her at that time? Li Liantong gossiped about the details with bright eyes. Lu Cheng said with a smile. More than a little. His answer immediately attracted Yinzhika's eyes, but the three girls became more excited. Shi Xiangyang said with a smile. So you had a little crush on our Ke for a long time. Then you joined the martial arts club because of her? You wanted to get close to her? Wanted is not quite accurate. I should say deliberately. Lu Cheng smiled and made fun of himself again. Oh. The three girls made meaningful sounds, which made Yinzhika roll her eyes at Lu Cheng again. But when she wanted to pinch his hand, he turned over and held it in his palm, gently rubbing it. Not bad. Li Liantong praised Lu Cheng's cooperation and asked. Then you got Ke's contact and started to pursue her? At that time, I didn't dare to reveal my intention to pursue her, so I could only chat with her as an old classmate. Lu Cheng chuckled. Zhong Yanru suddenly understood. I was wondering why Ke always took out her phone to chat. Before she could finish, Yinzhika reached out and covered her mouth. The two of them laughed and joked. The dishes were served one after another. They began to chat while eating. As for the gossip, Lu Cheng would say what he could, but he would never say what he couldn't. With the help of others' curiosity, he and Yinzhika reminisced about the details of the past. The more they ate, the more heartwarming and tasty the meal became. At the end of the meal, the three girls finally stopped and picked up their phones to reply to the messages. Hey, someone jumped off a building just now. The first jump in the new campus. Li Liantong suddenly exclaimed. What? What? Zhong Yanru and Shi Xiangyang asked in surprise. Li Liantong said. Cabbage, look at the class group. Ruru, you should be able to see it when you browse the school forum. Because Shi Xiangyang always liked to say that girls were fragrant, soft and fair, and was also a little white mouse and little white rabbit killer. She was usually very muddle-headed, so Li Liantong gave her another nickname, Cabbage. We happened to meet on the way here. Yinzhika asked curiously. Did they say why they jumped off the building? Why didn't you say so earlier? Li Liantong stared at the screen and said. They're from the management school. According to his roommate, he was from an ordinary family but was greedy for money. He borrowed a small amount of money, and the interest was getting higher and higher. Because he was forced to repay the debt, he cheated a lot of his classmates. In the end, he couldn't pay the debt, and wanted to commit suicide by jumping off the building. Pooh, this kind of person is a scourge in the world. Lu Cheng and Yinzhika looked at each other. They didn't expect such a situation. At least you helped those classmates find someone to repay their debt. His parents also didn't have to bear the pain of losing their son while facing a huge debt. Yinzhika leaned towards Lu Cheng's ear and comforted him. She didn't want him to feel unhappy about saving such a person. Lu Cheng exhaled and said, just treat it as helping his parents. Hey, he was saved by someone? That's good. Every injustice has its perpetrator, and every debt has its debtor. Li Liantong, Zhong Yanru, and Shi Xiangyang started to discuss this matter. After a rather enjoyable lunch, Yan Zhika escorted Lu Qing to the school hospital. Actually, you don't have to go. The first class in the afternoon is about to start. Maybe I'll be sent to the city to take an X-ray later. Lu Qing said to the girl who felt sorry for him. Yan Zhika snorted and said, How can there be a lack of truancy in university? I didn't expect that the first truancy in my life would be like this. At this moment, Lu Qing's phone rang. He took it out and saw that it was from his teacher. Teacher sure? He vaguely guessed why it was from him. Not bad. Now you know how to save people. Geezer sure joked. How's your hand? Is it okay? At that time, with that kind of skill, he could guess that it was Lu Qing who saved him. Lin Kei had to rest and didn't come to the martial arts club these 2 days. It's a little serious. Lu Qing answered honestly. Come to my place. I'll do acupuncture and give you some ointment. The doctors in your school hospital can only treat colds and colds. Geezer sure said sarcastically. Okay. Where do you live? Lu Qing didn't want to go to the city hospital to take an X-ray. After taking down Geezer Shi's address, he quickly told Yan Zhika about it. Then I'll go back to class. Yan Zhika was relieved and said with a smile. Bye-bye. I'll wait for you at the usual place tonight. Lu Qing smiled and waved his hand. The usual place was Chankieyaku. They were going to have dinner together. Yan Zhika turned around and walked 2 steps. She suddenly turned back and said with a smile. Cheng, when you saved people just now, well, you were so cool. After saying that, she quickly turned her head and left with light footsteps. So cool. Lu Qing touched his chin proudly and watched the girl go away. On the way back to their dormitory, Shi Xiangyang asked Li Liantong. Dirty Tong, what do you think of Lu Qing? Is he good enough for Ko? Li Liantong thought for a while and said, He's quite generous and witty. He looks more mature than the boys in the same grade. It's not bad that you rue, and I can find a boyfriend like him. But I still think he's not good enough for Ko. I think he's okay. Zhong Yanru had a good impression of Lu Qing. Li Liantong shook her head and said, He's not handsome enough. He can't make a living with his looks. I've also observed his clothes and shoes. They're just ordinary brands. They can't be considered good. In other words, his family background can only be considered average. I heard that his grades are only average. I don't think he's not good enough. I just think a girl like Ko deserves someone much better than him. I think so too. But it's really hard to calculate the relationship. Shi Xiangyang sighed. After returning to the dormitory, Zhong Yanru took her and Yan Zhika's textbooks and hurried to the teaching building. Li Liantong turned on her computer and browsed the school forum with great interest to see if there was any news about the suicide incident. Shi Xiangyang went to bed and planned to take a nap to prepare for the second class in the afternoon. After browsing for a while, Li Liantong's eyes suddenly lit up when she saw a post. Live video. It's great to have strong martial arts. It's a video of a rescue? Li Liantong clicked on it immediately. She saw a figure pouncing out when the boy was falling from the high ground. He was as agile as a fierce tiger. In an instant, he arrived nearby and reached out to catch the jumper. At this moment, as the figure moved his feet, cracks suddenly appeared on the concrete floor. Then, without knowing how he used his strength, he actually turned the fall into a horizontal throw, allowing the jumper to land safely on the ground. This caused Li Liantong to open her eyes wide. She felt a deep shock as she experienced the beauty of the tyrannical strength of the body. It wasn't that she had never seen a fight between mighty ones with physical invulnerability, but flames and lightning were too far away from real life. Breaking stones and so on also lacked the visual impact. Relatively speaking, it didn't make her feel that much. But just now, it was a real person jumping off a building. This was something that could often be heard and seen in real life. Seeing a boy catch the jumper safely, as an ordinary person, she was simply shocked. She couldn't help but admire the strong. So awesome, so manly. Which school is he from? Li Liantong moved the mouse and rewatched the video with great interest. She was suddenly stunned because of the familiar clothes and shoes. It's him? Li Liantong stared at the video blankly until it ended for a long time. When Lu Qing arrived at the teacher's apartment where Geysershire lived, he saw a mess of cups and plates and garbage everywhere, which perfectly fit the image of a lonely and lazy old man. After expressing his concern about his master's living situation, he was about to speak when he heard Geysershire say with a dry laugh, "A few old friends came and I didn't have time to clean up." "Old friends?" Lu Qing asked casually. "Yes, old friends that I haven't seen for more than 10 years. Hey, in order to break through to the forbidden area, he actually thought of searching for the relics left by ancient cultivators. He wanted to be inclusive and learn by analogy." Geysershire laughed. He said that there might be a Longhu Immortal's relic nearby. Lu Qing was stunned and almost couldn't control his heartbeat. Chapter 147. Immortal Cultivation? Is that true? Lu Qing disguised his shock as surprise. Geysershire pushed away the junk on the sofa and said, "Of course, but it's different from what you see on TV or in novels. It's not as scary as in myths and legends. Hee, most of those myths and legends belong to top physical invulnerability experts or forbidden mighty ones." "I see." Lu Qing took the opportunity to ask about his doubts. "What's the difference?" In the beginning, they were also a part of the martial artists. But because of their different starting points, they had a different understanding of the body, the spirit, and the illusory soul, and embarked on a different path. Alas, in the end they still couldn't break through the shackles. "Why are you asking so many questions?" Geysershire said impatiently. "Give me your right hand." "I'm just curious." Lu Qing smiled awkwardly and slowly raised his right hand. Geysershire extended 3 fingers and placed them on his pulse. His half-closed eyes glowed with a faint blue light. He then pinched the wound and said, "Fortunately, you can't be a one-armed hero. You don't even need acupuncture. Take this ointment and apply it. After a week, you'll be able to start practicing your strength." "A week from today?" Lu Qing asked for confirmation. In other words, his remaining 3.5 days of recovery had been extended to a week? "Isn't that obvious?" Geysershire glared at him. "Go do what you need to do." After leaving the classroom apartment and the building, Lu Qing's face slowly darkened. The unexpected news from his master had put a heavy psychological burden on him. "I wonder if Longhu Immortal is the original owner of the Jindan in my stomach. I wonder if Master's friends can find the Immortal Cultivator's mansion hidden in Weishui Lake. I wonder if they can find clues and trace it back to me. When I threw the black carp back into the lake, if it hadn't completely rotted and been eaten by other creatures, the traces would be obvious. But there are tens of thousands of students in the new campus, and more than half a year has passed. No matter how strong the supernatural ability is, they won't be able to suspect me from the black carp. I can't rush or panic, lest I give myself away. I'll pretend I don't know anything and live my life as usual. Well, I'll find a chance to squeeze the Jindan, and see if I can awaken the supernatural ability of frost. That way, even if I'm found and the Jindan is taken away, I'll have something of my own. For Master's sake, they won't do anything to me." The reason why he wanted to awaken the supernatural ability of frost instead of strengthening the power of flame was because his master's martial arts belonged to the unique ice sect. If he had the supernatural ability of frost, it would be much easier for him to practice. After making the decision, Lu Qing had more or less regained his composure. This was the best he could do with his own abilities. After pocketing the ointment, he grabbed the martial arts suit and other items that he did not put back in the dormitory with his right hand, and rushed straight to the 3rd teaching building. As for the books and other things, he had already asked Xiaoming to help him bring them, just in case. At this moment, his phone rang. He took it out and saw that it was a call from Kai Zongming. F***CK, don't tell me they're taking attendance in advance? I. Lu Qing picked up the call in shock. "Cheng, you're so F***king awesome." Kai Zongming scolded him without hesitation. Lu Qing was confused. "What's wrong with me?" "You're still pretending? That's what you get for pretending." Someone posted the video. "I don't know about others, but I'll recognize you even if you turn into ashes." Kai Zongming scolded him. Video. Lu Cheng roughly understood what Talker was talking about. He blurted out, "Who would take videos at that time?" Kai Zongming chuckled. "You're not new to the internet. Don't you know that some people will take a few selfies and post them on Weibo, talk about it, or moments? It's their instinct to take pictures and videos when they encounter a situation. But they probably didn't expect someone to catch them, so the focus is on the boy who jumped off the building. You're a little blurry in the picture, and you don't show your face much. People who aren't familiar with you probably won't recognize you." "Do you need me, an insider, to expose you?" he said excitedly. "You're so awesome. You can catch someone who jumped off the 7th floor. I'm a little impressed, and I'm looking forward to it. Cheng, you're famous in school. I heard a lot of students talking about you on the way. They think you're so cool, and they're all looking forward to becoming a professional martial artist." "Okay, I'll stop talking. Professor Chu is here. I think he's going to take a roll call. Hurry up. There aren't a lot of people today. I don't dare to answer for you." Lu Cheng was happy at first, but he was stunned by the end of the conversation. "Talker, put your head in front of me later." "Why?" Kai Zongming was puzzled. "I'm going to strangle you." Lu Cheng gritted his teeth. "I would have arrived if you hadn't called me." The teacher's apartment was not far from the teaching building. With his current running speed and insane stamina, he could reach the 3rd teaching building in 2 or 3 minutes. But he didn't have the ability to answer a call while running. Kai Zongming was silent for a few seconds. "Good luck." After that, he quickly hung up the phone. Shi Xiangyang took a beautiful afternoon nap. When she heard the alarm, she turned over and sat up. After tidying up for a while, she slowly climbed out of bed and said to Li Liantong, who was watching cartoons, "Dirty Tong, it's almost time to go." "Okay." Li Liantong turned off the computer and tidied her hair. She picked up the book beside her and was about to leave. Shi Xiangyang looked at her in surprise. "Aren't you going to wash up? Why are you in such a hurry?" "I'm confused." Li Liantong laughed dryly. She put down the book and rushed to the bathroom. Shi Xiangyang followed behind and wondered to herself, "Why does Dirty Tong look like she's in shock?" She shook her head. After she was done, she asked with concern, "Dirty Tong, are you okay?" "No, I'm fine," Li Liantong answered firmly. Shi Xiangyang was always carefree, so she didn't take it to heart. But on the way to the teaching building, she noticed that Li Liantong looked like she wanted to say something but didn't. "Dirty Tong, are you really okay?" Shi Xiangyang felt that if she could be so sure that there was something wrong with Dirty Tong, then there must be something wrong. Li Liantong opened her mouth and sighed. "You'll know in a while." "Know in a while." Shi Xiangyang was confused. She felt like her heart was being scratched by a cat. But Li Liantong was like a seasoned warrior. She didn't reveal anything in the face of torture. After entering the classroom, the two sat down next to their good friends. "Yang, have you seen that video?" The girl named Dong Mingshan asked Shi Xiangyang nosily. "What video?" Shi Xiangyang was even more confused. "Didn't someone jump off a building at noon?" "I don't know who took the video. The boy who saved the girl was so cool and powerful. I want to go to the martial arts club to practice martial arts to strengthen my body," Dong Mingshan said excitedly. "Bah, you're not going to the martial arts club to practice martial arts. You're going to find a boy who practices martial arts, right?" Shi Xiangyang said sarcastically. She took the phone Dong Mingshan handed to her and clicked on the video. "He can even take that? There's no flame or lightning." Shi Xiangyang watched the video again. "He's really cool." She was stunned and turned to look at Li Liantong, who was too quiet. She finally understood why she was so abnormal. It was him. In the evening, Lu Cheng waited for Yenjika at the entrance of the long bridge. He reached out his left hand and held the girl's cold little hand, passing his warmth to her. Yenjika looked at him with a faint smile and said, "Cheng, you've become famous in our school. Several girls in our class praised you for being so handsome when you saved the girl." They were guessing which leading member of the martial arts club or a mysterious master who didn't join the club. "Are you proud and happy?" "Yes, I'm proud and happy." Lu Cheng wanted to answer in this way, but he felt it was wrong. So he said with a smile, "I was very proud and happy when you said I was handsome." "Humph. Yenjika raised her head slightly and said with a smile in her eyes, "Liar. It can't be more true." Lu Qing was telling the truth just now, but he didn't say part of it. Seeing the girl's happy reaction, he felt lucky. He vaguely felt that he had almost fallen into her trap. "Humph, I believe you." Yenjika put on a "I pity you" look and then said with a blush, "I'm telling you, don't kiss me casually in the future." Why did she emphasize this again? Lu Qing changed his mind and said with a pitiful look, "But I always want to be closer to you. I think kissing between lovers is a very beautiful thing, at least that's what I feel." Yenjika humphed. "That's what you get for sticking your tongue out." Lu Qing suddenly realized that the girl didn't object to a normal kiss. She didn't push him away at that time. But she kept clenching her teeth and was forced to open by him. And she forced herself out of his arms as soon as they touched. "I'm wrong, Coach Yen. I was impulsive." Lu Qing hurriedly admitted his mistake. "Humph, if it weren't for the fact that you didn't hold me down and push me away, I would have ignored you." Yenjika slightly pouted and suddenly sighed. She lowered her head and said in a low voice, "Chung, I know that boys and girls have different cognition on some things. I hope you can respect my opinion. Well, let's get along well." This could be considered as the first small conflict since we started dating. Fortunately, she spoke out frankly and didn't keep it in her heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't know where I went wrong. And small conflicts could easily accumulate into big conflicts. Lu Qing was a little grateful. He also liked the girl's attitude of trying to communicate rather than sulking. Therefore, he said sincerely in a humorous way, "You don't need to do that. Coach Yen is right. Everything is up to Coach Yen." Yenjika was amused and chuckled. The sigh just now disappeared without a trace. "You have to remember this." She took Lu Qing's hand and trotted. "Go get a seat, or there will be no seats left." "Okay." Lu Qing was full of joy and followed the girl to the canteen. The next morning, when Geyser left after the first training, Lu Qing found a secluded place facing Weishui Lake and started his supernatural ability awakening plan. Chapter 148. Bang, bang, bang. Lu Qing only used his left hand, alternating between abrupt punch and flick finger to release flames to deplete the heat flow in his body. After a full 5 minutes, he finally felt the heat flow that had fused into the fine parts of his body dry up. The jindan in his lower abdomen began to expand and contract, slowly rotating and splitting into strands of power. This power balanced ice and fire, quickly soothing Lu Qing's fatigue, but it didn't help replenish the heat flow. Lu Qing knew it was a critical moment. He endured the involuntary spasms and strange exhaustion of his body, and continued to activate his supernatural ability. He shook his left arm again and punched forward with abrupt punch. Bang! Amid the vigorous and hurried sound, his mind suddenly buzzed. He automatically fell into a strange state of inward vision, reflecting the jindan that was like a miniature starry sky. With a whoosh, Lu Qing saw a star fly out from the surface of the starry sky, shaking out a flame. Then he felt his palm slightly hot. His eyes were filled with flames, and a layer of crimson appeared on the surface of the lake. The crimson flame struggled for a while before finally extinguishing slowly. Unlike the time when he fought Yi Yaoting, he was now using his supernatural ability to release the power of the jindan without reservation. He wasn't using his internal force to attack the enemy through visualization, so his performance was relatively more exaggerated. When the rolling flames dissipated, the surface of the lake was calm again, except for a few floating dead branches and leaves. Inside Lu Qing's body, the jindan suddenly shrank and threw out another ice crystal to achieve balance. The ice crystal quickly expanded into a cold current, sweeping through his blood vessels and meridians, and spreading to every corner of Lu Qing's body. At this moment, Lu Qing felt completely frozen, like an ice sculpture. Even his heartbeat slowed down. Damn, the backlash is still so scary, he thought sluggishly. After an unknown period of time, he suddenly heard the thumping of his heartbeat. It was like the sound of thunder that bid farewell to the ice, and woke him up from his frozen state of mind. Immediately after, Lu Qing felt his heart beating vigorously, spurting out blood that was full of vitality. The blood flowed throughout his body, dispelling the coldness. The marrow inside his bones cooperated with this process. In less than a minute, Lu Cheng was completely freed from his frozen state. He could feel the benefits of his body becoming stronger. Furthermore, he could clearly sense that after resisting and fusing with the frost, his physical fitness had vaguely improved to a certain extent. Come to think of it, when he first awakened his fire ability, there was also such a change. It was just that he had neglected this point due to his high fever and weakness. No wonder the strength of his physical body had exceeded his expectations in the past month. Yep, this was also very normal. His own body was already able to adapt to the scorching flow of fire, so it would be unreasonable if it didn't improve at all. Lu Cheng thought for a moment and felt his body was still weak. Cold seeped continuously from his bones, making him shiver. He just wanted to wrap himself in layers of thick quilts. Compared to the feeling of being on the verge of death last time, this time, it only reminded him of the experience of being sick when he was young. Turning around, Lu Cheng took out the down jacket he had prepared and began to examine himself. He wanted to see if he had awakened the supernatural ability of frost. He wanted to see if the frost and flames would cancel each other out, resulting in the tragedy of returning to the state before the release. While he was inspecting, he suddenly exclaimed in surprise and joy. The cold flow and the hot flow mixed with each other, forming a delicate balance that blended into the fine details of his body. Taking a deep breath, Lu Cheng shook his left arm abruptly and used 1-inch punch again. At the same time, he activated the cold flow of frost. Bam! There was no thin ice or snowflakes on the surface of his fist. Lu Cheng wasn't disappointed. Instead, he fell into deep thought. After a moment of silence, he suddenly slapped the nearest boulder with his palm. Bam! He pressed his palm against the boulder and slowly lifted it, revealing a patch of cold white frost that outlined the shape of his left hand. Seeing the white frost melting rapidly, Lu Cheng nodded thoughtfully. He had a rough idea of how to use the supernatural ability of frost. Currently, it wasn't strong enough to be released externally. However, it could be infused with his own strength, allowing his punches and kicks to be infused with frost. There was no need for additional ignition actions. Different supernatural abilities had different characteristics. This kind of frost wouldn't be of much use in actual combat for the time being. However, Lu Cheng believed that when it was mixed with the similar force of the ice sect, it would have a surprising effect. Phew! When my arm recovers next week, I'll report to Master that I've awakened the supernatural ability of frost. Let's see how he reacts and what plans he has. Lu Cheng tightened his down jacket, picked up the bag, and walked to the cafeteria, shivering. He urgently needed a cup of hot milk. As for the second wave of awakening, Lu Cheng didn't dare to try it for the time being. So far, it had only affected the surface of the Jindan. If he lost control again, it was very likely that it would affect the insides of the Jindan. The power and backlash would be far greater than before. It was better to wait until his body reached a certain limit, and his martial arts level stepped into the Danchi stage, before making a decision. In the cafeteria, Lu Cheng carried the hot porridge, steamed buns, eggs, and milk to the table where he and Yenjika usually ate together. Their backs were against the supporting pillars, creating a relatively quiet environment with few people. He put down the plate and took a sip of the milk. He felt the warmth flowing down his throat, soothing his stomach and reducing the coldness in his body. So comfortable. Lu Cheng sighed with satisfaction and took another sip of the hot porridge. At this moment, he saw Yenjika walking over with a plate from the corner of his eye. There were soy milk, fried dough sticks, and white steamed buns on the plate. The girl's charming figure was like a scenery in the cafeteria. Hey Cheng, you're done so early today? Yenjika was quite surprised to see her boyfriend at this time. Then she found that Lu Cheng's condition was not right. She hurriedly asked with concern, "Are you sick?" No. Lu Cheng's shivering had eased a lot. He smiled and said, "Let me tell you a secret." He felt warm because he and Yenjika had tacitly chosen this table at the same time. To be able to meet like this in several cafeterias, among the endless stream of students, it was not just fate. Yenjika put down the plate and sat beside Lu Cheng. She looked at him suspiciously and said, "What secret?" You don't look well. Shall I accompany you to see a doctor? Lu Qing leaned close to her ear and said in a low voice, I wanted to practice my supernatural ability this morning, so I tried it by the lake. When I was about to reach the limit, I suddenly awakened the supernatural ability of frost. My face looks bad because of the backfire, but it's much better than last time. It's not a big deal. He saw that under the invasion of his breath, the girl's ears gradually turned red, crystal clear and cute. You awakened your supernatural ability again? Yenjika's pink lips were half open, showing her white teeth. Her clear eyes were full of surprise and confusion, looking like a dazed girl. I don't know why. Maybe it's the way of balance between ice and fire. I don't think there will be any awakening in the future. Lu Qing explained. To be honest, every time he lied to the girl, he felt a little guilty. But the matter of the Jindan was related to his life. Telling her would only put pressure on her and make her feel uneasy. I hope to digest the Jindan as soon as possible and let the power truly belong to me. Then I won't feel guilty. Yenjika had seen too many miracles from her boyfriend, so she quickly recovered and blurted out. Why are you practicing your supernatural ability for no reason? Even if you want to practice, you should do it in front of Coach Sure. If the backfire is too serious, there will be someone to help you. If something happens to you, As she spoke, her eyes suddenly turned red, and there seemed to be waves of light on the surface of her eyes. Lu Qing gently bit his lower lip, reached out his hand, and held the girl's soft hand. I won't do it next time. I'll take good care of myself. I'll consider more thoroughly. At this moment, he felt a sense of responsibility. His life no longer belonged to himself and his family. Yenjika took a breath, suddenly shook off his hand and hummed. Do you want to freeze me to death? Your hand is so cold. It's the residue of the supernatural ability of frost. It can help you relieve the heat in summer. Lu Qing smiled fawningly. Yenjika calmed down, raised her eyebrows slightly and asked curiously, You don't need to light the fire? I don't need the supernatural ability of frost. Wherever I want to be cold, it'll be cold. Lu Qing said with a little pride. Yenjika pushed the freshly made hot soy milk to him, pursed her lips and smiled. Then you can cool it down. It's too hot. I can't eat it. Okay. Lu Qing held the soy milk cup with his left hand, operating a weak cold current. There seemed to be a change in his body. It was constantly producing frost, maintaining a delicate balance with flame. After a while, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief and took his hand away. There was a layer of frost on the surface of the soy milk cup, but it disappeared in a flash. The temperature should be okay. He touched the cup and gave it to Yenjika, waiting for her evaluation. Yenjika took a sip, nodded and smiled. It's just right. Your supernatural ability is quite useful. Lu Qing didn't expect to use his supernatural ability first, but he felt a sense of achievement. At least he had coaxed the girl into a happy mood. It's good that you like it. He smiled and said, By the way, have you finished watching the video sent by Coach Sure yesterday? The video was about the opponent in the weekend preliminaries. Finished. What about you? Speaking of this, Yenjika suddenly became excited. She was the first substitute and had a chance to go on stage. Lu Cheng's shivering had stopped, but his body was still a little weak. He smiled and said, Of course I finished watching. And I also found out something else. Although he couldn't go on stage because it was related to Yenjika, he worked harder than if he went on stage himself. What is it? Yenjika asked curiously. Lu Qing chuckled and said, Don't underestimate Dream Squad just because it's an amateur team. Their players are all second or third generation martial artists. Especially the three main players of amateur first pin. They all have high-ranked dance stage elders in their families. They are the top group in Songqing's martial arts circle. Yenjika didn't have any fear of high-ranked dance stage martial artists. She said with interest, and then she drank a mouthful of soy milk and took a bite of the deep-fried dough stick. She looked at Lu Cheng like a child listening to a story. You may not believe it, but they formed the Dream Squad to participate in the preliminaries because of jealousy. Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan both liked Qian Ruoyu, who grew up together. They almost turned against each other. But Qianruoyu's attitude was very ambiguous. She didn't say anything. In the end, she pulled them to gather friends and formed a squad. She said it was to see who would perform better in this preliminaries. Lu Qing said. Yenjika almost spat out the soy milk. She covered her mouth and said, "Is there anyone who is so picky? I feel like she is still a little girl. She is older than you by half a year. You are the little girl." Lu Qing laughed. "Humph, it depends on the mental age." Yenjika wrinkled her nose and asked in confusion, "How do you know all this?" "There is a local in our dormitory. He is quite well informed. I asked him specifically." Lu Qing told her the truth. For Coach Yan, he had done his homework. Yenjika's eyes curved, showing her dimples. She looked to the side and said, "At least you didn't forget me." Lu Qing finished the steamed bun quickly and drank the milk. He continued, "Qianruoyu's family's martial arts originated from Tai Chi, which is similar to your grandfather's. Jiang Dingyi's grandfather is famous for his knife skills. But because weapons are not allowed in the challenge tournament, he created a martial art that uses the knife skills in the palm. Feng Shaoquan is good at the tiger and crane double form and the modern blast punch. I watched the videos and thought I could imitate them. I will talk to Coach Shi during this time. I will be your sparring partner for half an hour at the end of the special training every day so that you can get used to their fighting style." Yenjika puffed up her cheeks and looked to the side with a blush. Okay. She didn't object to the sparring partner during the daily special training. They talked and ate breakfast and gradually came to an end. Suddenly, Yenjika looked at the big clock in the cafeteria and exclaimed, "It's almost 8 o'clock. We are going to be late." "Yeah." Lu Qing followed her gaze and saw that it was already 7:54. Yenjika was so angry that she pinched him gently. "It's all your fault. I am not usually late." Lu Qing smiled and felt sweet. He held her hand and said, "Hurry up, we still have time." The two left in a hurry and ran to the martial arts arena. They finally arrived at the arena with less than 10 seconds to spare. Yenjika caught her breath and glanced at Lu Qing. Their eyes met, and she felt warm and sweet at once. Even if it was just a small thing, she felt so happy. In the next few days, Lu Qing lived his life step by step, except that he was Yenjika's sparring partner. As for the cave of Longhu Immortal, he didn't hear Geezer Shi mention it again, but he didn't dare to ask about it. In the blink of an eye, Saturday came. Songqing University Martial Arts Club was going to host the Dream Squad at 3:00 p.m. Because it was just actual combat training, and there was no professional main force this time, Songqing University's publicity department didn't do any promotion for this competition, and didn't inform the whole school. The audience was expected to be very small. Lu Qing took a nap, and was about to go to Yenjika's dormitory building to go to the martial arts arena with her, when he suddenly received a call from Geezer Shi. "Brat, something came up and I can't come this afternoon." Geezer Shi said casually, "You will be the coach today." "What? I will be the coach?" Lu Qing was shocked. Geezer Shi laughed and said, "In this kind of competition, you can even tie a dog to be the coach. What are you afraid of?" "Okay, I am hanging up. You can arrange the order of appearance at your discretion." "Master, don't be so irresponsible." Lu Qing was about to say something when he heard the beeping sound. Damn, I am a wounded person. How did I become the coach? He was at a loss and suddenly thought of something. Could it be that his friend had discovered the Longhu Immortal's cave and had invited him to help out? Chapter 149. The more Lu Qing thought about it, the more he felt his guess was close to the truth. But being able to guess and being able to intervene were two different things. How could he get involved in the affairs of top physical invulnerability experts? All he could do was to be patient and wait for the result. He didn't want to panic. He exhaled and pushed this matter to the back of his mind. He packed up and was about to leave. It was the weekend. Zhang Jingye was dating his girlfriend, Wuxia. Qiu Zhigao was said to be training his muscles in the strength training room of the martial arts club. Only Lu Cheng and Zhao Chong were left in the small dormitory. Seeing him leaving, Zhao Chong looked away from the computer and said with a smile, "Cheng, how's your injury? Can you fight?" I can't even do recovery exercises, let alone fight. Luqing smiled bitterly. That's because you need to save people. You're Superman Cheng in our dormitory. Zhao Chang joked. Since you can't fight, I won't watch the game. It's boring. Luqing wasn't surprised at all. It was an amateur competition without much publicity. It would be strange if it could arouse people's interest. But it was good. With few spectators, senior brother Li Mao wouldn't be so nervous. Well, you can be a real fan. Luqing joked and walked out of the small dormitory with his bag. After the cold current backfire, he realized that he lacked a thermos. Usually he would drink water from the water dispenser with a paper cup when he was in the martial arts club or the teaching building. But when he returned to the dormitory, he only had an open ceramic cup. In Yenjika's words, he lived too coarsely and deserved to be called a coarse man. Hey Qing, you're early. Kai Zongming just came out of the bathroom. It's late. I have to pick up my girlfriend. Luqing smiled. Kai Zongming twitched his mouth. Hey, you're calling her your girlfriend? I learned it from you. Luqing answered with a smile. Kai Zongming said disdainfully. I understand now. You're setting off early so that you can take the opportunity to be lovey-dovey for a while. Back in the days when we were paired up, we went in and out together and ate together. Now those guys are saying that I was abandoned. Luqing couldn't help but laugh at little Ming's self-deprecation. I can't help it. I choose my girlfriend over my friends. He said it with unusual pride, without the slightest bit of shame. Kai Zongming was so embarrassed that he couldn't refute. He said, Cheng, you've become more thick-skinned since you got a girlfriend. I'll come to the martial arts club to cheer for you. After all, I'm a member of the special training. By the way, talker, how's your special training? Luqing asked casually. Kai Zongming had a look of, I really want to hit you on his face. Cheng, we're all members of the special training team. We train together every day. You didn't ask me until today. Don't you feel guilty? Guilty conscience. Luqing replied with a hollow laugh. Kai Zongming put on a proud expression and said, After 10 days of special training, I feel like I've returned to my peak state. Plus, you've stimulated me, so I've calmed down and touched the threshold of meditation. In 1 or 2 months, I'll probably be able to control the concealment of spirit and chi and master 24 blizzard strikes. By summer vacation, maybe I'll be able to reach the 3rd pin of the amateur level and return to my hometown to show off. Not bad. Maybe you'll be a substitute next semester. Luqing looked at the time on his phone. I'm leaving. See you later. Kai Zongming heard his perfunctory farewell and said angrily, See you my ass. In the female dormitory, Yenjika changed into her martial arts suit. She didn't have to go to the male locker room. Although there was a shower stall, it would make a girl feel uncomfortable. The female locker room was given to the visiting team. Seeing her ready, Zhong Yanru asked curiously, Ku, is your boyfriend coming today? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang, who were playing games and watching movies, stopped at the same time and pricked up their ears. How is that possible? The injury on his arm hasn't healed yet. Yenjika answered without much care. Li Liantong blurted out. Did he hurt himself again that day when he was saving someone? Yenjika was stunned. Her beautiful black eyebrows slightly wrinkled. You all know? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang looked at each other and said angrily. We're not blind. We just met at noon that day. How could we not recognize the person in the video? We just wanted to see when you would tell us the truth. But in the end, you didn't even mention it for a whole week. You didn't talk about this topic, so I didn't have a chance to mention it. Yenjika said with a slight grievance. She couldn't just show off how awesome her boyfriend was, right? That wouldn't be good. I think you don't have time. You give him all your free time. When you're back in the dormitory, you're still chatting with your phone. You can't wait to be with him 24 hours a day. Li Liantong laughed. Could you have to hold on? Don't lose your virginity too quickly. For guys, the easier it is to get, the less they will cherish it. Bah. I don't talk to dirty people. Yenjika laughed and scolded. Thinking back, it seemed to be true. But she didn't resist at all. Instead, she felt sweet. Plus, she had to do martial arts special training every day. She had to attend classes and do homework seriously. The time she had to spend with Chung was actually very little. She had to squeeze out some free time, so she subconsciously cherished it. Shi Xiangyang interrupted. Ko, since your boyfriend and Lin Ke are both injured, will you fight today? It depends on the condition of the other senior brothers and sisters. I have a chance. Yanjika chose her words carefully, so as not to curse Li Mao and the others. Zhong Yanru immediately said happily. Then we'll go to the martial arts club later, and cheer for you. Maybe you'll fight? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang both agreed and fantasized about Yanjika's heroine appearance. After chatting with her roommates for a while, Yanjika saw a message from Lucheng saying that he had arrived. She quickly packed her things and hurried out. A perfect match. Looking at her back, Li Liantong sighed with emotion. Zhong Yanru joked. Dirty Tong, that's not what you said before. Isn't that because I don't know him well enough? Li Liantong said shamelessly. He has such a level of martial arts at such a young age. His future is really limitless. Also, he has a good personality and is even better to his girlfriend. I agree with him dating Ko with both hands and feet. Outside the third dormitory building, Lu Cheng saw the girl walking out briskly. A smile unconsciously appeared on his face. He walked up to her, took the bag and held her delicate hand. The whole process was done in one go. He had been trained for a long time. Yanjika looked at him with a smile. Cheng, Dirty Tong and the others recognized that the boy who saved her was you. They seem to worship you a little. Why does this sound a little strange? Lu Cheng smiled cautiously. That's because they haven't seen much of the world. After saying that, he quickly changed the topic. Coach sure has something to do and can't come this afternoon. He asked me to arrange the match for him. Yanjika opened her mouth slightly. She seemed to be at a loss and didn't understand what had happened. After dozens of seconds, she couldn't help but laugh. Coach sure is so capricious. Cheng, you're the real Coach Lu. Not the real one. I still have a grand coach above me. Lu Cheng laughed. As for who it was, it definitely wasn't Coach Shi. Yanjika turned her head and coughed twice. She pretended to be serious. Then what do you plan to do? I've thought about it. If Senior Li Mao is the last to fight, he will be more nervous. He will feel that he is responsible for the success or failure of the martial arts club. But if he is the first to fight, he will most likely want to make a good start. So I put him second. This way, the pressure will be the least. Lu Cheng explained his thoughts. At the same time, he was glad that he had carefully studied the videos of Dream Squad for the girl. He wouldn't just shake his head and say that he didn't know anything about the enemy. Not bad. It's the same as what I thought. Yanjika praised. Lu Cheng took the opportunity to laugh and said, This is called telepathy. Bah. Yanjika pursed her lips and raised her head to show her disdain. It was still early. The two of them walked slowly and took the opportunity to talk about their opponents. When they were about to reach the martial arts arena, Lu Cheng suddenly exclaimed, There are quite a lot of people today. The number of students coming from all directions was much more than what he had expected. Yanjika also didn't understand. She laughed and said, Did the publicity department promote it again? The two of them looked at each other blankly and walked into the arena hand in hand. They saw that the audience seats on both sides were sparsely filled with people. There are about 1,000 people here? Lu Cheng sighed. It was definitely not comparable to the university martial arts competition, but it was enough to support a competition. Yanjika bit her teeth and said, With so many spectators, will Senior Li Mao be more nervous? The two of them entered the male locker room with worries. They saw Sun Jian standing up and teasing them. Cheng, it's all your fault. You made the scene big. What does it have to do with me? Lu Cheng was confused. Sun Jian laughed. Didn't you save a student who jumped off a building on Monday? Everyone is curious about who the young hero is. After hearing that the martial arts club has a competition this weekend, they all came spontaneously. The martial arts club didn't publicize the preliminaries this weekend, but they didn't hide it either. Because they needed to use the venue, they posted a notice at the entrance, asking the students who were used to training on Saturday afternoons to avoid it. It's really my fault. Lu Cheng didn't expect this to be the reason. He couldn't help but look at Li Mao, who was sitting in the corner with a hot towel on his face. He looked a little nervous. At this time, Lin Hua pulled Yanjika aside and whispered something to her. Yanjika came back with a strange expression and whispered to Lu Cheng, "Senior sister Lin's period came 2 days early because of nervousness. She's not in a good condition today, so I'll take her place." "Well, why would it come early?" Lu Cheng asked in surprise. "Of course. Emotional changes, psychological stress, adjustment of work and rest, and physical condition will all affect it. Humph, I was already very tired on Valentine's Day, and your confession made my mood change too much. So I came early tonight," Yanjika said in a low voice. Lu Cheng calculated the time and asked, "So early?" "My period is shorter than normal. It's only 26 days. Yanjika said angrily. "You're the coach today. Arrange the order of the fight. Don't count this." Lu Cheng took a breath and looked at her. "Then you're really going to fight?" Yanjika was a little excited and a little nervous. She nodded slightly. "Yes." Lu Cheng held her hand and whispered, "Don't be afraid. After a few days of training, you should know what to do. No matter how strong they are, I can beat them with one hand." Yanjika looked at her boyfriend's deliberately arrogant face and couldn't help but laugh. She calmed down a lot. Lu Cheng clapped his hands and said to his senior brothers and sisters, "Quiet down. Coach sure can't come today, so I've been appointed to take his place." "What?" Sun Jian and others looked at him in surprise. "Coach Lu? He might be the youngest coach in the history of the martial arts club, even if it was only one fight." In the female locker room, the beautiful Qian Ruoyu said in a low voice, "Lin Ke can't fight for sure, but Lu Cheng can fight with injuries. However, they're mainly training the team. Even if Lu Cheng fights, he'll be the last one. We have to deal with the first two as soon as possible and concentrate on him." Chapter 150. Hearing Qian Ruoyu's arrangement, Yu Qiao interrupted in surprise. "Isn't Songqing University's Lu Cheng known for his unlimited stamina? If we can't win even if we take turns." Before he could finish his words, he was stared at by 4 fierce eyes. His voice became smaller and smaller, and finally stopped abruptly. The 4 eyes were from Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan, who were sitting on either side of Qian Ruoyu. Damn it! What was wrong with my brain? Why did I get involved when they were fighting for a woman? What a waste of time and life. Yu Qiao didn't have the guts to scold the 2 flower protectors, so he could only complain about himself. He had just turned 22 and was of amateur first pin. His father was the junior brother of Qian Ruoyu's father. He wasn't a bad person, but he didn't have a good character. He had joined the team at Qian Ruoyu's invitation because he was interested in the gossip. Now he regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. Qian Ruoyu explained seriously with a serious face, "I've consulted the elders in my family. They all agreed that Lu Cheng can only do recovery training in these 2 days. If we force him to fight, there will be a lot of flaws on his right side. We can target him repeatedly, so it's not impossible." "Well, junior sister is right. I didn't think clearly." While Yu Qiao answered sincerely, he silently said, "A wise man submits to circumstances." To be honest, his junior sister was pretty and had a good character. She was just a little spoiled. Sometimes she was too greedy, and sometimes she liked to pretend to be an adult. Seeing that senior brother Yu was convinced by her, Qian Ruoyu beamed with joy, showing the youth and naivety of an 18 or 19-year-old girl. She looked around and said, "So our vanguard must be the type who is good at ending the battle quickly." Hearing this, Feng Xiaoquan volunteered, "Everyone has seen how good my tiger and crane double form is. I won't give them a chance to wander around and fight." He had a good appearance, but his slightly hooked nose showed a bit of arrogance and frivolity. Before Qian Ruoyu could answer, Jiang Dingyi retorted, "You think you can end the battle quickly if you don't wander around and fight? The gap between amateur first pin and second pin isn't that big. 24 blizzard strikes isn't a piece of scrap metal. Ruoyu, let me do it. I'm tall and strong. As long as I can seize the opportunity to force them into a head-on fight, the earth-shattering palm will definitely be able to end the battle quickly." He was close to 1.9 meters tall, and his muscles were firm like half an iron pillar. His personality was considered steady, and he was dependable. It was just that he was rather stuffy and did not speak much. With a swoosh, Feng Xiaoquan stood up and sneered. In the previous few matches, when did you end them quickly? It's more likely that he'll be dealt with quickly. Due to the care given by the organizing committee intentionally or unintentionally, their opponents in the first 2 matches were not strong, which was a process for them to accumulate confidence and improve their strength. But no matter how much care was given, they still encountered a professional 9th pin in the second match. Jiang Dingyi tried to exhaust his opponent with brute force, but his opponent seized the opportunity and finished him off. Hearing Feng Xiaoquan's ridicule, Jiang Dingyi also stood up and stared at him. Didn't you lose in the end? Seeing that the 2 boys were about to have an internal conflict, Qian Ruoyu stepped in between them and covered her head. I'll fight the first round. There was no way he could live like this. The atmosphere in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club was the complete opposite. Damn, we have to call Coach Lu today? Sun Jian was annoyed and amused at the same time. Coach Shi was too irresponsible. Lin Hua, who was next to him, blushed inexplicably. It was already embarrassing enough for her to ask for leave, because of her menstruation. However, the person she asked for leave was not the old Coach Shi, but a junior who was 2 years younger than her. Because Yanzhika was going to take her place, she specifically explained it to Yanzhika, but specifically told her not to tell the boys. Now it seemed that her junior must have passed on her words and helped her to ask for leave. Thinking of this, she was so shy that she stared at the floor attentively. Li Mao took off the hot towel on his face and said in surprise, Coach Shi left just like that. Did he really not care about the result of this match at all? Yeah, anyway, it's a match for us to accumulate actual combat experience. It doesn't matter who is the coach. We can even tie a dog. Lu Qing deliberately made fun of himself to help Li Mao relax. Puff. Everyone burst into laughter, and Yanzhika even hit Lu Qing. When Li Mao saw that no one was paying much attention to him, he heaved a sigh of relief. His body was no longer as tense. Lu Qing was about to arrange the order of appearance when the locker room door behind him was suddenly pushed open. Lin Kei walked in wearing a dark sweater. Lin Kei, why are you here? Sun Jian asked in surprise. Lin Kei said calmly, don't we have a match today? But you can't fight? Li Xiaowen thought Lin Kei was trying to be brave. Lin Kei looked at the corner of the locker room and said expressionlessly, I can cheer for you. Lu Qing and Yanzhika were stunned at first, then looked at each other and smiled. They both felt the change in Lin Quebec. After last week's match, my cousin seems to have a sense of collective honor. Yanzhika whispered in Lu Qing's ear, unable to restrain her excitement and happiness. Lu Qing was a little confused. He used to have a sense of collective honor. Didn't he feel very sad and painful when he lost last semester's match? Well, how do I explain this? He used to value the martial arts club because of my uncle, but for him, he is the only one in the club. When he can't fight, he doesn't care about the life or death of others. Well, that's how he looks down on you. Yanzhika laughed in a low voice, and her hot breath brushed against Lu Qing's ear, making him feel numb. Ticklish. Lu Qing tilted his head and laughed in a low voice. The others were shocked by Lin Kei's performance and were stunned for a moment, only watching the strange scene. Since when did young hero Lin, who was always alone, cheer for others? Yanzhika laughed in a low voice. Every time you whisper in my ear, you're always like this. Lu Qing gave a hollow laugh and didn't dare to continue the conversation. He changed the topic and said, in last week's game, your cousin and I worked together without holding back and won the final victory. Maybe because of this, he has a sense of collective honor. Hehe, how are you going to thank me? Do we still need to thank each other? Yanzhika deliberately opened her eyes wide and answered innocently. Seeing that Sun Jian and the others were looking over, Lu Qing stopped flirting and said seriously, I'll arrange the match today. I will arrange the order of appearance for today. Senior sister Lin Hua has suffered some injuries during the training, so Yanzhika will take her place. She has not participated in the previous university martial arts competitions, nor has she participated in any challenge tournament. The Dream Battle team definitely does not know the details of her situation. In this way, she will have the opportunity to win by surprise. Therefore, Yenjika, you will be the first to fight. Yenjika nodded seriously and answered, okay. Her body trembled slightly, more excited than nervous. Lin Hua was relieved and deeply grateful for Lu Cheng's care. While Guqing, Li Xiaowen, and Li Mao were surprised by Yenjika's replacement, Lu Cheng continued, Senior brother Sun Jian, you're the main player today. You'll be the last one to hold the line. Hee, all the heavy responsibilities are yours. He purposely said this to make Li Mao less nervous. No problem. Sun Jian answered straightforwardly. Lu Cheng looked at Li Mao and said, Senior brother Li, you'll be the second to fight. Observe your opponent later. At this time he didn't say anything to make Li Mao relax, so that he wouldn't be nervous because of the special treatment. Okay. Li Mao was much less nervous than before. After arranging the match order, Lu Cheng looked at the time and said, There's still a while. Everyone get ready. You can close your eyes and adjust your breath. His master had already told him about the opponent's situation in the morning. He would combine the specific match order of the opponent and give him a secret instruction later. Just as Lu Cheng finished speaking, Yenjika picked up the bag and said hurriedly, Senior sister Lin Qing, help me tie my hair up. In less important matches where they were confident in themselves, female martial artists usually tied their hair up in a ponytail before going on stage. But in reality, their best choice was to wear their hair short or tied up in a bun. This was to prevent their hair from affecting their body in an intense battle, or to be targeted by their enemies. Yenjika came from a family of martial arts. Since she was prepared for the possible fight today, she had brought all the necessary items. Under the guidance of the principle of convenience, not beauty, and with the help of Lin Hua and Guqing, she quickly tied her hair up and stood in front of Lu Cheng. The girl's neck was white and slender with beautiful lines. She looked more mature with her hair tied up. Lu Cheng couldn't help but praise her in a low voice. So beautiful. Yenjika's facial features were more delicate, and her temperament was more gentle. But with her hair tied up, she gave people a feeling of bright eyes and white teeth. Am I not beautiful most of the time? Yenjika's eyes were filled with joy as she hummed in a low voice. Lu Cheng laughed and said, Different beautiful. Yenjika smiled and didn't say more. She reached out her hand to help Lu Cheng tidy his collar and patted the dust off. She said softly, You're a coach. You have to be more spirited, okay? Yes, Coach Yan. Lu Cheng answered with a smile. He turned around and clapped his hands. Go out. There's not a big gap between amateur fighters of first pin and second pin. After saying that, he walked towards Lin Ke, who was by the door. He smiled and extended his fist. Lin Ke was stunned. In the end he clenched his fist and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. He said softly, All the best. The audience in the martial arts arena was obviously not organized. When they saw the home team coming out, they started cheering for them sparsely. Li Liantong took advantage of the fact that no one here knew her. She waved her hands at Yenjika like a madwoman, venting her accumulated pressure. When she saw them approaching the home team seats, she said in surprise, Cabbage, Ruru, they don't seem to have a coach? Her impression of the martial arts club's coach was a white-haired old man. Zhong Yanru stretched her neck and looked over. Suddenly she was stunned. Lu Cheng is sitting in the coach's seat. What? He's the coach today? Li Liantong and Shi Xiangyang were shocked. At the Dream Squad seating area, Qian Ruyu pouted slightly and said unhappily, Songqing University Martial Arts Club is looking down on us? Their elders had repeatedly emphasized that the coach of Songqing University Martial Arts Club had a strong background and powerful strength. They also told them not to create trouble. If they were a dragon, they should coil up. If they were a tiger, they should lie down. In the end, the coach didn't even come, and let that Lu Cheng be the coach. They really think we're kids. Humph, we have to teach them a lesson. Feng Xiaoquan and Jiang Dingyi also felt that they were being looked down on. Their expressions were full of fighting spirit. Chapter 151. As a formal selection match. Even if they were only qualified to record the match, and didn't even have the chance to make a backup broadcast, The big screens in the martial arts arena lit up one after another, allowing the audience to clearly see the arena from all angles, as well as the seats of the host and away teams near the arena. Hey, where's the coach of our martial arts club? I remember that he's an old man. The one sitting in the coach's seat seems to be a student. No way, could it be that the coach has changed? When I passed by yesterday, I saw the former coach. Look carefully, I feel that the student coach looks a little familiar. The audience was noisy and bustling, but none of it entered Lu Cheng's ears. He was listening to Li Xiaowen's report on the opponent's members and order of appearance. Qian Ruoyu first, Feng Xiaoguan second, Jiang Dingyi third. Lu Qing muttered thoughtfully, and felt a little relieved in his heart. Although there was no difference between men and women in martial arts competitions, and it was normal to have contact with fists and feet, and he himself could understand and accept it, he still felt a little uncomfortable when he thought that Yanzhika would hold the opponent's wrist or be held by the opponent when using listening skill. It couldn't be better that her first opponent was a girl. When this match was over, the following opponents wouldn't dare to give her the chance to use listening skill. It was okay to attack the opponent's vital points in a martial arts competition, but one shouldn't deliberately take advantage of the opponent. That would be ostracized by the whole circle, which would tarnish the image of a martial artist. While thinking, Lu Qing pulled Yanzhika over and said with a smile, "Do you want to win quickly, or do you want to train your actual combat ability?" Feeling her boyfriend's confident attitude, Yanzhika's slightly trembling body calmed down. She smiled and said, "How do you want to win quickly? How do you want to train your actual combat ability?" You've seen the video of Qian Ruoyu's previous matches, and we've also discussed it. She doesn't lack actual combat experience, but either she wins smoothly or loses cleanly. She hasn't encountered any unexpected situations. As long as you can surprise her, she will most likely make mistakes. Lu Qing coughed and gave instructions in the manner of a coach. Yanzhika's beautiful eyes looked up and said, "To win quickly is to surprise her with the ability to pull back the center of gravity at the beginning of the match and create opportunities with all my strength? To train my actual combat ability is to hold back temporarily and use fists and feet? More or less." Lu Qing smiled and said, "However, actual combat situations are ever-changing. Your opponent may not give you a chance to familiarize yourself with your punches and kicks. No matter how much I say, it still depends on your judgment and performance. Personally, I suggest you don't hold anything back." At this moment, the referee said in a clear voice, "The third round of the Songqing Division Preliminaries, Songqing University Martial Arts Club vs. Dream Squad. First round, Yanzhika vs. Qian Ruoyu." When Yanzhika was about to enter the ring, Lu Qing seized the last chance to whisper a few words to her. "If there's no other opportunity, I'll show a flaw and let Qian Ruoyu use Tai Chi hand wrap to compete with her in listening skill. I've observed her. She's very confident in touching listening skill, and always wants to try it. However, it's obvious that she hasn't entered meditation yet. She relies entirely on the characteristics of her martial arts, and her usual push hand training. There's a certain gap between you and her, so you can restrain her." After defeating Qian Ruoyu, Feng Xiaoguan will be the next to enter the ring. He'll definitely want to save face for his beloved girl, so his fighting style will be relatively more aggressive. This will give you the opportunity to use 24 blizzard strikes. When the time comes, even if Feng Xiaoguan doesn't lose, he'll be close to defeat. This will give Senior Li Mao the best opportunity to enter the battle. Yanzhika listened carefully, her eyes flashing as if digesting. Although she came from a family of scholars and her accumulation of knowledge was far better than Lu Cheng's, and she was always good at analyzing matches and giving suggestions, it was all just theory. When it was her turn, she still felt a little guilty and didn't dare to believe her own judgment and preparation. Her mind was in a mess. She wasn't as experienced as Lu Cheng, who could calmly analyze any situation and handle it from the details. Listening to her boyfriend's tireless and detailed explanation, Yanzhika gradually became more certain. She nodded slightly, smiled faintly, pursed her lips and was about to step forward. "Cool." Suddenly, Lu Qing called her in a low voice. Yanzhika turned her head to look at him, her face full of confusion. Lu Qing raised the corner of his mouth and smiled gently. This time it's my turn to cheer for you. He suddenly clenched his hands into fists and shook them. Victory! Yenjika's eyes suddenly became gentle. She smiled sweetly and said, "This seems to be the first time someone has cheered for me like this." After saying this, she turned around and walked up the stone steps step by step. Her body had stopped trembling, and her feet didn't slow down at all. When she stepped into the ring and her figure was completely magnified by the screen, the stands on both sides suddenly quieted down. No one would have thought that the first fighter of Songqing University Martial Arts Club would be such a beautiful girl. Bright eyes and white teeth. She was beautiful and elegant. Qianruoyu was originally a recognized beauty. She was delicate, tender, and full of youthfulness. However, when she stood in front of Yenjika, she was instantly overshadowed. She was dwarfed and looked like a passerby. It can't be. Songqing University Martial Arts Club has such a beauty? It's fine if there is, but how can they bear to let her fight in the challenge tournament? Yu Qiao betrayed Dream Squad in an instant and said with heartache. Even if they had liked Qianruoyu for many years and their obsession had become very deep, Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan were still shocked by the girl's beauty. If they were to fight, they might be timid and subconsciously give in. They might also want to show off their strength. Of course, this was under the condition that Qianruoyu wasn't watching. In the ring, when Qianruoyu saw Yenjika, her heart suddenly tightened. She felt an inexplicable sense of danger. It seemed that she was already at a disadvantage and her status was shaky. She secretly gritted her teeth and planned to use her martial arts strength to turn the situation around. 3 minutes of conversation time. The referee announced, "I've seen your information. You haven't participated in the ranking event, and you haven't fought in the challenge tournament before. Today is your first real battle, right?" Qianruoyu wasn't stupid. She used her first real battle to make her opponent nervous. Yenjika's mind was echoing with Lu Cheng's encouragement and analysis just now. She casually replied, "Yes, but there are always pros and cons. At least you don't know me at all." She smiled faintly and hid all the nervousness between her eyebrows. "So what if it's my first real battle? My boyfriend defeated his opponent easily in his first real battle." At this moment, Lu Qing didn't return to his coach's seat. Instead, he approached the ring and watched the match closely. To him, Yenjika's appearance made him more nervous than him fighting. He was afraid that she would be injured or wronged. He was afraid that she would encounter some unexpected situation. In his own battle, at least he could control everything. But now, after direct instruction, he could only watch. The rest would depend on Yenjika's improvisation. And how she would perform on the spot was completely unknown. Lu Qing hid his nervousness and looked as calm as ice. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and stood beside the ring, watching quietly. "Wow, that coach is so cool. You're still in the mood to watch the coach? Which school is that girl from? I remember meeting her on the road. I even hit a telephone pole because I peeked at her. She seems to have a boyfriend. I often see her eating with a boy in the cafeteria. Wait, it seems to be that coach. Damn it, rabbits don't eat the grass near their burrows. Maybe she's there to eat the grass near their burrows." Before this, although Yenjika was pretty, there were many pretty girls among the tens of thousands of students. There were also quite a few who were not worse than her. She had never hosted a party to welcome freshmen, and had never done anything in the limelight. So not everyone knew about her. Only those in the same school, the martial arts club, and her roommates knew about her. As for the others, they would only take a few glances when they met on the road. But soon, they would forget about her because of their studies and games. Lu Qing even knows how to pose and act cool. Li Liantong snickered and said to Shi Xiangyang. Shi Xiangyang guessed, "I think he's just nervous about Ke. He's full of boyfriend power." In the midst of everyone's discussion, the 3 minutes of conversation came to an end. Qianruoyu tried her best, but failed to affect Yenjika's mood. Instead, she was irritated by the way Yenjika looked at her, as if she had dropped out of school. She planned to teach her opponent a lesson. Yenjika didn't know what Qianruoyu was thinking. The reason why she kept looking at her was because she thought of the melodramatic emotional entanglement between her and the two boys. She wanted to see what the parties involved were like. Begin. The referee waved his right hand. Yenjika had made up her mind to hold back and familiarize herself with her moves, so that she could adapt to the real battle as soon as possible. Therefore, after a few steps, she twisted her waist and back and directly launched a mountain blast punch. Qianruoyu put her feet together and punched with her left hand. Like a drum, her left hand moved horizontally to Yenjika's wrist. Bam! Yenjika's strength was slightly weaker and her body swayed a little. At this moment, Qianruoyu loosened her shoulders and exerted strength purely from her waist and back. Her left arm was like a tangled hand, leading Yenjika's right fist to the side. Yenjika's center of gravity was affected subconsciously. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qianruoyu took half a step forward and quickly punched with her right fist, aiming for the exposed middle flaw of her opponent. This fighting style, which originated from Tai Chi, put Yenjika in danger. Yenjika's heart tightened. Fortunately, she had been practicing for a long time and didn't panic. Her spine suddenly wriggled like a dragon turning over, and forcibly pulled her center of gravity back. She then used her left foot as a fulcrum and turned around to Qianruoyu's right side. With her back facing the enemy, she narrowly avoided the forward punch. With her back facing the enemy, it was difficult to observe the situation. Even if she used her elbow to attack, it would be easy for her to counterattack. Yenjika didn't stop. She turned again and came behind Qianruoyu. She raised her right hand and punched down. Chung was right. My opponent won't give me a chance to familiarize myself with my moves. She forced me to pull my center of gravity from the beginning. Is this real battle? Chapter 152. Qianruoyu was quite shocked when Yenjika forcibly pulled back her center of gravity and circled to her right. She didn't expect Songqing University Martial Arts Club to have a secret weapon after injuring Lin Kei and Lu Cheng. A secret weapon that had reached the initial level of meditation. And a secret weapon that could control the details of the body to a certain extent. This was really a configuration for the final round of the university martial arts competition. Fortunately, she was also a martial artist who had experienced many actual battles. Although she was shocked, she did not panic. In a situation where she could not withdraw her right fist in time, she directly tightened the muscles on her right thigh and threw out a side kick, fast and ruthless. However, Yenjika didn't stop. She circled to her back, and just when she withdrew her right leg and couldn't exert force. Damn it! She didn't look like she didn't have actual combat experience. Facing Yenjika's downward punch, Qianruoyu cursed in her heart. She quickly tapped her right foot and swung her arm. Instead of pulling it back, she hammered forward, causing her upper body to fall down. She narrowly avoided the fatal blow with a slanted posture. At the same time, her lower body stood firmly without the slightest wobble. Failing to hit, Yenjika wanted to turn her fist into a palm and press down with force to make Qianruoyu unable to maintain her center of gravity. However, at this moment, Qianruoyu's upper body was like a spring. She suddenly pulled back and leaned back, avoiding Yenjika's right palm. Her left arm was already bent, and what followed was a vicious elbow strike. Yenjika raised her left hand and blocked her elbow in time. Then she felt the strength of this strike was quite strong. She didn't dare to be careless and withdrew her palm to reduce the force. In a split second, Qianruoyu used the blocked elbow as a fulcrum and threw out her forearm with a clenched fist towards Yenjika's lower abdomen. Tilting punch. In-lifting palm. Impossible to guard against. Yenjika had watched many of her opponent's competition videos and was familiar with her fighting style. But this was the first time she encountered a real fight. Although she wasn't nervous, her mind was still a little muddled. She couldn't quickly turn her accumulated knowledge into on-the-spot judgment. She couldn't make the correct response in time to the pull and the tilt just now. Fortunately, her choice wasn't completely wrong. When she withdrew her left palm holding Qianruoyu's elbow, she drew a small arc, flipped it up, and then shook it. Together with the push of her right palm, she threw her enemy one step forward. Pa! As the distance between the two of them increased, Qianruoyu's punch hit nothing but air. She simply went along with the force of the throw and took a few steps forward, taking advantage of the momentum to turn around returning the situation to the confrontation before the official start of the competition. Yenjuka recalled the previous scenes in her mind. She realized that she lacked actual combat experience and had made many mistakes in judgment. If she hadn't been cautious enough, she would have been defeated. Until now, she finally understood why Lu Qing had suggested that they not hold back and go all out with her as the leader. Because this was the only way to avoid making mistakes to the greatest extent. If you don't listen to the words of the old man, you'll be at a disadvantage. However, if he didn't experience it for himself, he wouldn't be able to understand the insight contained in these words. She took a light breath and felt that she had completely entered the competition state. Her mind was clear again, and she was no longer nervous and confused. Since he understood, he would listen to Coach Lu. She pounced forward, took a step forward, and took the initiative to attack. Seeing that Yenjuka had narrowly avoided the punch, Lu Qing was relieved. From her last counterattack, he judged that she had truly adapted to the competition and had shed the inexperience of a rookie, not losing in a dangerous situation. With this kind of experience, Ku's martial arts combat will be much easier in the future. Lu Qing nodded with gratification. Even for himself, it was only when he fought with the Shaolin disciple, Wu Shitong, that he relied on the listening skill and had a similar experience. The audience in the stands applauded one after another, spontaneously cheering for Yenjuka according to the name list on the big screen. They didn't expect that this girl, who looked elegant, gentle, light, and delicate, could perform so valiantly and heroically. Among the cheers of Go Yenjuka, Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang, and Zhong Yinru felt honored and shouted the most intensely. The reason why such an atmosphere was intoxicating was because when one was in it, one didn't have to consider the opinions of others. They could vent themselves to their heart's content, including happiness, pride, and the accumulated negative emotions. How come everyone in the Songqing University Martial Arts Club can enter meditation? Yu Qiao's eyes greedily followed the beautiful figure, and couldn't help but sigh. The members of the Dream Squad were all extraordinary, but until now, only Jiang Dingyi had entered the door of meditation. For a martial arts aristocratic family, meditation was not something that could be practiced at any time. If one was too young and had a pure heart, he or she would know almost nothing. If one tried to meditate, he or she would only fall asleep. As one grew older and had more contact with society, the information they received would be more varied, and it would be harder for them to conceal their spirit and qi. In other words, the most suitable age to practice meditation was between the ages of 10 to 22 or 23. In this, the spirit was closely related to the body. The stronger the body, the more vigorous the qi and blood, and the more energetic the spirit, the easier it was to enter meditation. Therefore, before a martial artist's body was fully developed and his qi and blood were vigorous to a certain extent, practicing meditation would only make one tired, slow down and weak. Without a certain level of talent, it was almost impossible to enter the door. Considering this, martial arts families arrange for their disciples to practice meditation between 17 or 22 years old. Some were even more extreme, requiring the body to reach the level of professional ninth pin. Jiang Dingyi, Feng Xiaoquan, and Qian Ruoyu had only started to try it in the past year and a half. Feng Xiaoquan answered with slight worry. Could it be that the coach of Songqing University has some secret method? Yenjuka's meditation seems to have reached the initial level. Her ability should be more than that. If Ruoyu is careless, the result will be troublesome. Although that girl was pleasing to the eye, the one he cared about most was still Qian Ruoyu. There are tens of thousands of students in Songqing University. It's not difficult to find a few who have the talent to enter meditation. Jiang Dingyi sighed. Although there were high-ranked Dan stage fighters in his martial arts club, it would be good enough if he could pick 1 out of 100 disciples. After all, it was not some big sect or force. In the arena, Yenjuka approached Qian Ruoyu and threw a seabed burst punch at her lower abdomen. During this process, she did some visualization and mixed a little of the meteor force into her fist, making it faster and faster. It tore the air and made an explosive sound. Her physical quality was not enough to complete the real meteor force. Bam! Qian Ruoyu lowered her body and hammered her left hand down fiercely, blocking Yenjuka's burst punch. Bang! When the two collided, she was about to repeat the same trick and lead her opponent's fist away. Yenjika's body trembled. She took the opportunity to withdraw her fist and borrowed strength. She stretched out her left hand and grabbed Qianruoyu's shoulder quickly and fiercely. Brutal blizzard of 24 blizzard strikes. Qianruoyu was not surprised but happy. She pushed her feet inward and put strength in her waist and back. Her right shoulder loosened and moved forward. Just when her hand came into contact with Yenjika's palm, she suddenly tightened her shoulder. Before her opponent could grab her, she bounced and shook. Yenjika's left hand was immediately bounced away and slightly stopped in the air. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Qianruoyu shook her right arm and caught Yenjika's palm with Tai Chi hand wrap. Seeing this scene, Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan immediately shouted "Good job!" and couldn't wait to rush to the side of the field to applaud. But when they saw Lu Cheng smiling and nodding opposite them, they suddenly realized something and hurriedly shouted, "Let go!" At this moment, Qianruoyu could not hear the voices outside the arena. She held her opponent's slender fingers and pulled them down without hesitation. However, before she could exert her strength, Yenjika seemed to have anticipated it. Her left hand moved in the direction of her pulling and her body moved closer. Her right hand clenched into a fist and suddenly punched out, aiming for Qianruoyu's lower abdomen. Qianruoyu did not dare to be negligent. She temporarily stopped trying with her right hand and gathered her strength to pound her left fist like a drum. Bang! In the midst of the dull sound, Yenjika used her listening skill to pull back her left hand. Under Qianruoyu's subconscious grip, they pulled her forward with their combined strength. It was this movement that made Yenjika tighten her right thigh and hit Qianruoyu with her knee. Poof! Her knee hit Qianruoyu's lower abdomen, but she stopped in time and did not use her full strength. The referee beside them stopped his action and raised his right hand. First round, Yenjika wins. Yenjika withdrew her right leg and stood up straight again. For a moment, she was still a little absent-minded. She won just like that? She had made several wrong judgments and was surrounded by dangers. After changing her fighting style according to her boyfriend's advice, she actually won so easily. Qianruoyu really liked to use Tai Chi hand wrap and to compete with others in listening skill. Qianruoyu was really too smooth. In the face of unexpected changes, her reaction was indeed too slow, and this was completely consistent with Cheng's judgment just now. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but look back at Lu Cheng. She saw him clenching his fist with a bright smile and giving her a thumbs up. He is really a professional fighter with enough insight and experience. This thought came to Yenjika's mind. Her mouth curved, her nose wrinkled, and she actually made a funny face at Lu Cheng. After a moment of absent-mindedness, her first real victory made her very happy and excited. She couldn't wait to rush down the arena and celebrate with Lu Cheng. It was the first time Lu Cheng saw a girl make a funny face. For a moment, he felt that she was so cute. The audience, who were watching the big screen, didn't miss this scene. The cheers and shouts became sparse. Qianruoyu rubbed her stomach and stood up straight. Her expression was very complicated. She had never thought that she would lose so quickly and so cleanly. After discovering that her opponent could forcibly pull back her center of gravity, she should have realized that her meditation skills were enough to support her listening skill in a battle. Qianruoyu was a little unwilling to admit defeat. "I didn't know you well enough this time. Next time, I'll win it back." After saying this, she realized that Yenjika was not looking at her at all. Instead, she was exchanging glances with their coach Lu Cheng. "This is so disrespectful." Qianruoyu snorted and turned to leave. Feng Xiaoquan came up to her and patted her shoulder comfortingly. Yenjika turned back, her eyebrows relaxed. She laughed in a low voice. "Next time I won't be a newbie." At this moment, the audience finally realized what had happened. They loudly cheered and shouted for her, their voices echoing around the martial arts arena. "Yenjika! Yenjika! Yenjika!" Yenjika finally experienced the wonderful feeling that her boyfriend had always described. Her cheeks were slightly red from excitement. When she saw Feng Xiaoquan enter the arena, she naturally thought of Lu Cheng's judgment just now. Feng Xiaoquan was obviously in love with Qianruoyu. He was the standard flower guardian. After his sweetheart was defeated, he would definitely be eager to help her get revenge in exchange for a good impression. Therefore, his fighting style would be more aggressive than usual. This is my chance to use 24 blizzard strikes. Chapter 153. In the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club, Sun Jian and the others changed their sitting postures, their faces full of expectation. In the beginning, they didn't have much confidence in the battle between Yan Zhike and Qian Ruoyu. After all, not everyone was like Lu Cheng, who could amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. Actual combat experience still needed time to accumulate. But as Yan Zhike steadied herself and launched a counterattack, purposely showing a flaw to get a chance to compete with Lu Cheng's listening skill, they suddenly became excited. During this time, Lu Cheng had been practicing listening skill with Yan Zhike every day, never hiding from their presence. They didn't expect it to come in handy. Yan Zhike, a fledgling, could defeat an opponent 2 levels higher than her. Facing an amateur first pin, they were not completely hopeless. Today, they might be able to get a victory in their home ground. Without Lu Cheng and Lin Kei, we also have the ability to fight. We won't just rely on them. Watching Feng Xiaoquan climbing the stone step by step, Yan Zhike quickly panted, trying to recover as much strength as possible. Although she and Qianruyu did not fight for too long in the battle just now, there was no chance for her to use 24 blizzard strikes. However, her body was tense and her mind was in a daze, which would consume her physical strength exponentially. Not to mention that she had dealt with several dangerous situations. Therefore, at this moment, she was more than half exhausted and had to seize the opportunity to take a breather. Feng Xiaoquan saw the girl opposite him with flushed cheeks due to panting and excitement. Her bright eyes were so beautiful that he didn't dare to look directly at her. He quickly closed his eyes, put away all distracting thoughts, and recalled Qian Ruoyu's unwilling and angry expression just now. "Ruoyu, I'm here to avenge you." Thinking of this, he felt a burst of excitement. This was a chance that Jiangdingyi couldn't get. The referee didn't give them too much time. He raised his right hand and said, "The second round start." With his announcement, the surrounding stands burst into a burst of cheers for Yan Zhike again. Feng Xiaoquan also moved the 2 muscles on his back, like a giant red-crowned crane, and rushed to his opponent. He was so fast that he was in front of Yan Zhike in the blink of an eye. He raised his right hand and put it beside her head, as if he was hugging her head. Then he exerted strength in his muscles, shook the air, and chopped out his right hand fiercely. Tiger hug downward chop. Roar. The sound of the wind reverberated like the roar of a tiger. Together with this attack, it was truly powerful. With Lu Cheng's analysis and her own judgment, Yan Zhike had long anticipated the enemy's attack and killing move. She didn't panic and shook her right arm, thrusting out her fist like a big spear and hitting the tiger claw from the side. Bang! The moment the 2 of them collided, Yan Zhike took a step back with her right foot and stepped firmly on the ground, neutralizing the power that was much stronger than hers. At the same time, her muscles trembled as she used the yin-yang twist to rebound her right arm. Pa! Just as her right fist was bounced off, Feng Xiaoquan's fist suddenly opened. Using his knuckles as the point of force, a series of crisp sounds burst out, turning the downward chop in tiger embrace into the white crane stretches its claws. This was the killing move of the tiger and crane double form. There was no warning before it was launched, but it was fast and fierce. It was more terrifying than the combination of the finger spear and the tiger fist, and more difficult to defend against. Moreover, it could be followed up with other killing moves. If Yan Zhike hadn't carefully studied his match videos and had a deep impression of this move, her wrist would have been broken on the spot. Her right arm bounced back and her body leaned back. Yan Zhike visualized the scene of a roaring wind and snowstorm in her mind. She pulled out her left leg and kicked towards Feng Xiaoquan's knee. Feng Xiaoquan hooked his toes, twisted his waist, lifted his thigh, and bounced his knee. Like a golden rooster standing on one leg, he threw out his right calf and tapped on Yan Zhike's tense foot. Bang! In the muffled sound, both of them shook at the same time. Yan Zhike took advantage of the force to pull back her leg and stomped down. Her foot pushed inward, allowing the force to surge up through the mountains and over the ridges, converging with the small currents in various parts of her body. Then, using her spine as an axis, she rotated her waist and pulled in her right shoulder. With a loud rumble, she threw out an aggressive blast punch. With the continuous borrowing of force, her punch was not inferior to Feng Xiaoquan's tiger punch. Brutal Blizzard was getting fiercer and fiercer. The combination of her two moves was so tight that Feng Xiaoquan had no chance to dodge with the crane steps. He could only activate his shoulder blades and back muscles, and combined with the force under his feet, he clenched his right hand into a beak and pecked at the side of Yanjika's blast punch. The crane pecking momentum, one peck, one hole. Bang! Yanjika's right arm bounced back and pushed her strength to the side to avoid the fist. She used her strongest point to meet the crane pecking momentum. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan's right hand bounced back. He couldn't help but shake his hand. After all, the pecking momentum was not as strong as the fist. Yanjika's fist was only a little red, but it was not a big deal. Using the yin-yang twist again, Yanjika bounced back her right arm and punched with her left fist. Her momentum was even stronger than before, like a never-ending blizzard. Bang! 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 This made the cheers in the stands louder and louder. Thousands of people showed the power of tens of thousands of people. After blocking several times, Feng Xiaoquan felt that his strength was gradually falling into a disadvantage. He knew that he couldn't go on like this, so he quickly restrained himself and took a deep breath. His face suddenly turned red and his temples bulged. It seemed that gunpowder was exploding in his body. Using his feet as a cannon, he suddenly punched out. Bang! Their bodies shook at the same time. It was a tie. Under the recoil of each of them, the situation was temporarily stagnant. Yanjika was about to attack again when she suddenly felt that her body was empty. Her muscles were aching and twitching, which made her realize that her physical strength had reached its limit. According to her current condition, it would be difficult for her to perform a complete 24 blizzard strikes. Not to mention that she had just fought a fierce battle. Her last few moves were driven by the borrowed strength. Now that the brutal blizzard was interrupted, she naturally couldn't fight again. Seeing that Feng Xiaoquan had recovered, she raised her right hand and made a gesture of surrendering. There was no disappointment on her face. Instead, a faint smile appeared. If I was at my peak, I might be able to defeat Feng Xiaoquan. I'm so envious of Cheng. I need to strengthen my physical strength. Looking at the girl's bright smile, Feng Xiaoquan was stunned. Then he heard the referee's announcement. Round 2, Feng Xiaoquan wins. I won just like that? Seeing Yanjika turn around and leave, Feng Xiaoquan suddenly felt a little lost. But he quickly recovered. He pinched his right arm and gasped for breath, hoping to recover more strength. The suppression of the 24 blizzard strikes and the last blow of the modern blast punch had consumed a lot of his energy. Lu Cheng saw Yanjika walking down the ring amidst the cheers. He spread his arms with a smile and gave her 2 thumbs up, praising her for the perfect timing of the 24 blizzard strikes. Her momentum was full of vigor, and every move was at her fingertips. She didn't stick to the rules. Her fighting style could be said to have reached a higher level. Yanjika's eyes slightly curved. She smiled and walked to Lu Cheng. When she was about to open her mouth, her thighs suddenly became weak and she stumbled forward. She was really at her limit. With Lu Cheng by her side, she naturally didn't have to worry about falling. She only saw Lu Cheng sliding over and stretching out his arms to hold her firmly. His chest is so reassuring. As this thought flashed through her mind, the shouts on the stands stopped abruptly. All the spectators were dumbfounded by this scene. At this scene, many male students had a strong idea. Coach, I want to learn martial arts. Okay, everyone is watching. Yanjika blushed and broke free. As a coach, Lu Cheng knew the next step was the most important. He didn't say much to Yanjika, only clenched his fist and reached out to her. Yanjika also clenched her fist and bumped it with Lu Cheng's. She shouted in a low voice, "Victory!" After the ceremony, she walked to the seats of the home team. Guo Qing and Lin Hua had already come to greet her, praising and supporting her. At this time, the 3 of them saw Li Mao pass by with a slightly pale face. Yenjika was about to reach out her right hand and give Li Mao a high five or a fist bump to encourage him, but he ignored her and passed by her. Li Mao is so nervous, Guqing murmured. Lu Qing also noticed this. His mind raced as he tried to figure out what to do. Nervousness will affect the speed of thinking, but it won't last forever. Li Mao, who is not as nervous as last time, should be able to calm down after a few moves. Can I set a preset program for him like a computer when his thinking is slow? Let him do that without thinking? Fighting is ever-changing. What kind of preset program is suitable? Too simple and useless. Too complex and requires the coordination of thinking. It's a waste of time. While thinking, Lu Qing observed Feng Xiaoquan's every move on the stage. He was rubbing his right arm and wrist. Obviously, the blast punch collision just now was not easy. He was gasping for breath, which indicated that he had used up a lot of energy. In this case, speed and strength would all be reduced. If it were me, an amateur, facing such an enemy, how would I fight? Lu Qing gradually had an idea. When Li Mao was about to pass by him, he suddenly pulled him and whispered, "Don't think about anything later. Remember one thing. Slide step to the left, low kick, and then punch." "Okay." Li Mao answered a little stiffly. Lu Qing didn't let him go. He said in a low voice, "Repeat it. Left slide step to the left, low kick, punch to the left, slide step to the left, low kick, punch to the left." Li Mao's memory was not a problem. Very good. If your mind is blank later, use it to replace your thinking and judgment. Lu Qing reminded him again. Li Mao nodded and stepped up the stone steps. Looking at his back, Lu Qing took a deep breath and waited for the battle to start. He had taught him the simplest way. He hoped that there would be no accidents. Chapter 154. Walking up the stairs, Li Mao didn't feel as nervous as last time because this was not an important match. It didn't matter even if he lost. Coach sure didn't even show up. But why am I still a little nervous? Why am I still trembling? Is it because of the thousands of people around me? Is it because of Yenjika's outstanding performance that I'm under pressure and don't want to ruin the good situation? Or is there no other reason? Is it because I'm born a loser who can't stand big occasions? Why am I so nervous because of my inferiority? Feeling self-deprecating, Li Mao stood opposite Feng Xiaoquan and saw the referee raise his right hand to announce the start of the match. I haven't adjusted yet. With a buzz, he felt himself tense up again. Although his thoughts didn't become sluggish, he couldn't concentrate. At this moment, a sentence suddenly flashed in his mind. Don't think about anything later. Remember one thing. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Li Mao murmured to himself, as if he was grasping at the last straw. Feng Xiaoquan stopped gasping for breath. He could feel the obvious nervousness of the enemy in front of him, and he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Good thing it's him. A few days ago, Feng Xiaoquan had thought about Li Mao's performance in the university martial arts competition, and was impressed by his stage fright. Therefore, he had made up his mind that once he met this opponent, he would seize the opportunity to attack and not give him a chance to recover. It was a gift from God to meet this nervous brother when he was so exhausted. Round 3 start. The referee didn't give Li Mao time to adjust. As soon as he finished his words, Feng Xiaoquan flapped his muscle wings as if he was stepping on ice and approached his opponent quickly and fiercely. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by forward punch. Li Mao didn't think at all. He followed his instinct and slid to the left to dodge. Then he tightened his thighs, bent his knees, and kicked out with a low kick, aiming straight for Feng Xiaoquan's joint. Feng Xiaoquan didn't expect this nervous brother to dodge in time. He had to stop his tiger palm cut and turn to twist his waist and swing his leg to block with a side kick. Bang! When they were feet to feet, Li Mao was like a robot. He instinctively adjusted his muscles and borrowed a little strength. He pulled his right arm back and made a fist. Slide step to the left, low kick, followed by the forward punch. Feng Xiaoquan shook his right arm and punched out with his tiger fist. He did not show any signs of weakness as he met force with force. Bang! Amidst the muffled sound, Feng Xiaoquan felt a soreness in his right arm. He didn't use enough strength, and his opponent forcefully knocked his fist away. Damn it! This is the after effect of the fierce fight. He made a prompt decision. Using his left foot as a fulcrum, he swung his right hand to the side and turned his body around. Li Mao's punch landed, and he seemed to have entered the rhythm of his training. His body instinctively swung back and forth, and once again he borrowed strength and threw out his left fist, aiming straight for Feng Xiaoquan's wide-open chest. It. Such a simple left slide step, low kick and forward punch? However, in the current situation, he didn't need to make any complicated analysis, nor did he need to be resolute and decisive. He only needed to use the 24 blizzard strikes skillfully as he did in his usual training. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan twisted his back, rotated his shoulders, clenched his left fist, and hammered down. He blocked Li Mao's mountain splitter. Li Mao's mind gradually became clear and his attention was focused. He felt the rhythm of the game was so good. It made him feel like he was back in the practice field. The familiar environment could effectively reduce the tension. He swung his left fist back and let the strength flow into his spine and to the soles of his feet. Then with his back as the axis, he whipped his leg towards Feng Xiaoquan's lower body. Seeing this, Wuxia was relieved and happy for Li Mao. He didn't stay on the sidelines and went back to the coach's seat. Feng Xiaoquan, on the other hand, was quite annoyed. Knowing that he was suppressed by 24 blizzard strikes again, he no longer hesitated and gave a whip kick. Then he took a deep breath, his face turned red, and his temples bulged. Boom! Feng Xiaoquan seemed to have a gunpowder explosion in his body. He spurted his right fist to counterattack. Li Mao, who gradually got used to the game atmosphere, could make simple and quick judgments. He knew his opponent was exhausted, so he didn't avoid the attack. He wrapped the borrowed strength and hammered down hard. Bang! Both of them shook their center of gravity and took a step back. Feng Xiaoquan took the opportunity to use the crane steps and flashed to Li Mao's side. He clenched his fist into a tiger claw and chopped down. If it had been the Li Mao from a few moves ago, he would have had no choice but to take this attack head-on. But now he lowered his center of gravity as he raised his right arm. Bam! Just as the tiger fist hit his right arm, Feng Xiaoquan suddenly changed his crane beak and used the force to jump and peck at Li Mao's temple. Li Mao bent his knee and lowered his center of gravity as his right arm was hit. He lowered his body and avoided Feng Xiaoquan's crane beak. At the same time, he exerted force with his left foot and turned his body into a cannonball, crashing into Feng Xiaoquan's chest and abdomen. Feng Xiaoquan didn't take it head-on. He stepped on the crane steps and dodged nimbly. He changed his position and attacked again. Within a minute, he launched a series of attacks. However, Li Mao, who had already calmed down, seemed to have returned to the dead of winter. He had returned to the days when he had endured the darkness, faced the cold wind, listened to the sound of firecrackers, and trained hard. He no longer panicked. Every move he made was full of posture, and his defense was watertight. It was in this month that he really mastered the 24 blizzard strikes. As they fought, Li Mao suddenly found that Feng Xiaoquan's strength had weakened a lot. There was also a sluggishness in his steps. He had reached his limit. Once he made the judgment, Li Mao didn't think too much to avoid hesitation. He immediately slid and pounced on his opponent. Feng Xiaoquan's heart tightened. He abandoned all distracting thoughts. He straightened his spine and wriggled his waist. He raised his hands and turned them into the wings of a red-crowned crane. He fiercely hit Li Mao's temples on both sides. When his palms were about to hit his opponent's raised arms, he suddenly lifted his hips and changed his center of gravity. He assumed the posture of a golden rooster standing on one leg. His right foot kicked out silently like a tiger's stomp. Tiger crane combined attack. Li Mao had just blocked the attack of the red-crowned crane when he saw the enemy's right foot coming at him. He couldn't resist and had to curl up and roll on the ground. While rolling, he felt quite sad. He finally could play normally, but he seemed to have fallen into the enemy's trap and was about to fail. At this moment, Li Mao suddenly realized that Feng Xiaoquan didn't catch up in time and left a gap for him. Was he really tired? Was that the last counterattack? While thinking, Li Mao straightened his back and stood up again. Facing Feng Xiaoquan, who had just approached him, he put his feet inward and drove his spine. He fiercely threw a blast punch. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan raised his right arm and blocked in time, but his body couldn't help but shake. Obviously he had reached his limit. Li Mao didn't spare him and threw another punch. Bang! Feng Xiaoquan's hands were weak and his stance was broken. Li Mao's eyes were almost red. He slid closer, leaned his body and fiercely hit him. Feng Xiaoquan leaned back and tried to dodge, but his body was empty. He couldn't maintain his center of gravity and fell down. Li Mao rushed up, tightened his thighs, bounced his knees, and kicked out the tip of his foot, stopping at Feng Xiaoquan's throat. Round 3, Li Mao wins. The referee raised his right hand and announced the result. I won. I won. Li Mao couldn't believe his ears. In an instant he seemed to have returned to the university martial arts competition. At that time, he failed to live up to everyone's expectations and was easily defeated because of nervousness. Now did I finally win? At this moment, many images flashed in front of Li Mao's eyes. There was Chen Zhonghua's disappointed and bleeding fist, Lin Kei's pain covered with a hot towel, Coach Shi's words of encouragement, his annoyance again and again, the hard training day after day with clenched teeth, the bone-chilling winter wind, the silence in the darkest hours of the morning, and the scene where Lu Cheng and the others carefully took care of his emotions and racked their brains to help him relieve his nervousness. In the cheers of the whole stadium, he couldn't help but turn to look at the seats of Songqing University Martial Arts Club. There Lu Cheng was holding Yan Zhika's hand. Yan Zhika was holding Guqing was holding Li Xiaowen was holding Lin Hua was holding Sun Jian, and Sun Jian was holding Lin Quebec. When Li Mao looked at them, they raised their hands at the same time and shouted, Li Mao, come on! Li Mao's eyes turned red and tears flowed out uncontrollably. He knew that he was locked on by the big screen and everyone could see the details, but his vision couldn't be blurred. An 8-foot man was crying like a child at this moment. Chapter 155. Li Mao wasn't a pretty girl like Yan Zhika, and he wasn't as famous as Lin Quebec. His classmates only cared about whether he had won or not. They weren't curious about him at all, and didn't want to find out more about him. It wasn't until they saw him crying like a child that they started to be surprised, and their emotions were aroused. It's just an ordinary preliminaries. Is there a need to cry like this? Some people in the audience were confused and felt that Li Mao's reaction was too exaggerated. There were also some students who suddenly remembered the trash that they had cursed and scolded last year. They recognized the tearful Li Mao and said, Hey, I know him. Last year, at the critical moment of the martial arts club's group advancement, he was the one who was trampled on like a wooden stake and ruined our absolute advantage. I almost cried because of him. Yes. He's that nervous bro. Some of the students were immediately enlightened. It wasn't until now that they understood why Li Mao was crying. It was a sign that he had drawn a clear line with his past. It was a heavy burden that had been lifted from his heart. It was a sign that he had made up for some of his mistakes. It was a sign that he was grateful to his companions for not abandoning him. It was easy to win against others, but difficult to win against oneself. The students who understood the whole story felt a little warm and a little sour. One of them thought of his stage fright and raised his hand, shouting loudly, I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, but I'm sorry. You can do it, Li Mao. While the audience was crying in surprise and forgot to cheer, this high-pitched voice pierced the silence and rang in many people's ears. The rest of the students who had mixed feelings just now seemed to have received a call. They all raised their hands and shouted in unison, You can do it, Li Mao. These voices converged into a torrent, driving the whole audience and creating a roar that almost blew the roof off. You can do it, Li Mao. The tsunami-like cheers echoed in Li Mao's ears, blurring his vision with tears. He reached out and covered his face, murmuring in a low voice, Thank you, thank you. Feng Xiaoquan climbed up from the ground and looked around in confusion. He didn't know why the audience suddenly burst out with more enthusiasm than before. His heart was sullen and unwilling to accept the result of the previous match. If he hadn't used up so much energy in the previous match, He wouldn't have suddenly felt empty after using the tiger and crane combined attack. There shouldn't have been a pause, which ruined the victory that was so easy to obtain. The reason why he consumed so much energy in the previous match was because his fighting style was too aggressive. He didn't take advantage of the crane steps, and gave Yenjika a chance to use 24 blizzard strikes. The reason why his fighting style became aggressive was because he wanted to help his sweetheart get revenge and save her face. Thinking of this, Feng Xiaoquan had nowhere to vent his grievances and unwillingness. He turned his head and walked down the stone steps in a daze, unwilling to stay a second longer. At this moment, he realized that Qian Ruoyu was whispering something into Jiang Dingyi's ear. She was very close to him and her attitude was very intimate. His heart and face sank at the same time. He saw Jiang Dingyi stood up like an iron tower and walked towards him. "What did Ruoyu say to you just now?" Feng Xiaoquan couldn't help but ask when they were about to pass each other. Jiang Dingyi smiled slightly and said, "She said Li Mao consumed a lot of energy and asked me to take advantage of my strength and force him to fight, and end it quickly." "Take advantage of your strength?" Feng Xiaoquan murmured. The haze between his eyebrows became more obvious. He was angry that he was looked down upon and also sad that his sweetheart didn't like him. When he returned to his seat, he saw Qian Ruoyu's tight face and tight lips. She was nervous, expectant, and a little depressed. His mood suddenly softened and he said softly, "With old Jiang, we can definitely win." Qian Ruoyu turned her eyes and looked at him in surprise. "I hope so. You can't lose to the substitute of Songqing University Martial Arts Club." How long had it been since Xiaoquan called him old Jiang? At this moment, she suddenly blamed herself. Because of her greed, selfishness, vanity, and hesitation. The two boys who played together since childhood were like strangers. The thought flashed, and was quickly thrown to the back of her mind. Her attention returned to the current competition. She wanted to win like never before. Songqing University Martial Arts Club didn't send any main force. Even the real coach didn't come. If she and others lost the competition, how could she face Jiangdong's parents? She formed the Dream Squad, not to enjoy being surrounded and play house like a child. She wanted to prove to those who thought she was spoiled that she could also do it, and rely on herself. "I'm not a child anymore. I have dreams too." At Songqing University Martial Arts Club seats, Lu Cheng and the other members cheered for Li Mao in the form of a crowd. Then they let go of their hands and returned to their seats. Sun Jian had just sat down when he suddenly remembered something. He stood up abruptly, walked to Lu Cheng, and leaned close to him. "Cheng no Coach Lu, what did you say to Li Mao just now? What secret did you teach him? He actually managed to get over the initial nervousness? I really admire you now. I feel that you have some kind of magical power. You whispered something to Yenjika, and she won when she just entered the arena. Then you whispered something to Li Mao, and he won when he was overly nervous. You also whispered something to him. Why don't you whisper something to me later?" Looking at Sun Jian's curious and expectant face and feeling Yenjika's gaze, Lu Qing chuckled and said, "What I said to Senior Li Mao was, front back up down left right low heavy leg followed by light punch." "What the hell is that?" Sun Jian blurted out with a blank face. Lu Qing looked at Yenjika's confused expression and chuckled. "Make a move. Make a big move. Stop joking." Sun Jian finally realized that he was fooled by Lu Qing while Yenjika gently pinched Lu Cheng's thigh. Lu Qing stopped laughing and said, "Actually, it's more or less the same. I think Feng Xiaoquan wants to catch Senior Li Mao's nervousness and will attack first. His right hand has been hit by Yenjika twice. Although it won't be injured, it will affect his ability to use force without enough time to recover. So I told Senior Li Mao not to think about anything else. Just slide to the left, kick to the bottom, and punch to the right. After a few moves like this, as long as he hasn't lost, Senior Li Mao should be able to recover." Yenjika felt proud of what he said and the sweet dimples on her cheeks appeared again. It's quite suitable for Li Mao's situation. But the premise is that your vision is sharp enough, you are experienced enough, and you have a good grasp of Feng Xiaoquan's mind." Sun Jian sighed and admired Lu Qing more and more. Lu Qing said modestly, "It doesn't matter if I'm wrong. There won't be a worse result. Yenjika empathized with her boyfriend's praise. She quietly lowered her right hand and held Lu Cheng's left hand. Lu Cheng caught her hand and scratched her palm. Then what did you say to your girlfriend? Sun Jian was still curious. A rookie who just entered the arena for the first time actually won a clean victory after a series of mistakes. I told her that I would lend her my strength. Lu Cheng didn't want others to think that Yenjika won because of his guidance. He started to talk nonsense with a serious face. This kind of thing should be known by the girl herself. Yenjika almost burst out laughing. She was a little touched and opened her right hand, clasping it tightly with Lu Cheng's. Really? Sun Jian obviously didn't believe it. Lu Cheng laughed and said, Of course it's true. This is called encouragement of love. You and senior sister Lin are an old couple, so you won't understand. Sun Jian looked at him disdainfully and nodded slightly, half believing and half doubting. Yenjika blushed and hummed, turning her head back to the arena. At this time, Jiang Dingy had already stood in front of Li Mao and the referee had also raised his right hand. Sun Jian didn't return to his seat, but just stood beside Lu Cheng and watched. Li Mao quickly wiped away his tears. He felt that the heavy burden in his heart had been completely washed away by the crying just now. This cleared up his emotions and made him feel relaxed. I just need to exhaust him. He secretly made a decision. In the competition just now, he was carrying a heavy burden in the battle, so his consumption was more than doubled. Now he was almost an arrow at the end of its flight. The referee waved his right hand. The fourth round start. Jiang Dingy was nearly 1.9 meters tall and his skin was bronze. He didn't look like a young man under 20 years old at all. At this time, he closed the distance between them in 2 big strides. His right arm tightened and made a chopping posture in front of him. Li Mao took action immediately. He twisted his waist and shook out his right arm so that his fist was like the tip of a spear to his opponent, making a crisp sound of tearing the airflow. Jiang Dingy's chopping right hand suddenly stopped. It turned out to be a feint to trick Li Mao into attacking first. After that, he directly urged the strength of his shoulder joint and elbow joint and quickly chopped his opponent's wrist fiercely. Earth-cracking palm. Bang. Li Mao's wrist wasn't the strongest point of force. After being chopped by Jiang Dingy, he suddenly felt a sharp pain and withdrew his right hand like an electric shock. But because of this, he borrowed a little strength and slipped to the right side of his opponent. Enduring the pain that hadn't disappeared yet, he fiercely punched Jiang Dingy's waist with his left hand. Jiang Dingy lowered his body and bent his back. His right elbow hit out horizontally and blocked Li Mao's fist in the form of a hilt. Bang! In the dull sound, Jiang Dingy used his elbow as the fulcrum, his arm as the blade and his palm as the tip to make a diagonal chopping. Li Mao held his elbow and bounced his back. He dodged again and came to the back of his opponent. When he was about to launch an attack, Jiang Dingy suddenly twisted his waist and pulled back his leg, sweeping backward and sideways. Bang! Jiang Dingy's kick was so powerful that it kept exploding in the air and fiercely whipped to Li Mao. Li Mao quickly lowered his shoulders and made a stance to block the kick. Bang! Under the collision, Li Mao only felt that his body was weak for a while. He couldn't continue his strength and was swept to lose his center of gravity and staggered to the side. Jiang Dingy pulled back his leg and touched the ground. When he was about to attack, Li Mao, who had just recovered his center of gravity, didn't try to stabilize his body. He kicked his feet and counterattacked. I'm close to the limit. I must exhaust him. Only this thought was echoing in his mind at this time. Facing this kind of hurried counterattack, Jiang Dingy didn't avoid at all. He raised his left arm and blocked Li Mao's right fist. He lifted his left foot and leaned his body. His right hand seemed to be holding a sharp knife and fiercely stabbed to his opponent's abdomen. Li Mao put his left hand close to his body to block, contracted his abdomen, and bounced his waist and back. Unexpectedly, he ignored Jiang Dingy's hand and bumped his left arm and left shoulder, trying to penetrate the city wall with a crossbow that was close to its limit. Bang! Jiang Dingy endured the pain and seized the opportunity to hold Li Mao's body. Then he tripped him and lifted him up and heavily threw him to the ground. Thump! Li Mao was dizzy and couldn't stand up for a while. The referee glanced at them and announced the result. The fourth round, Jiang Dingyi wins. Jiang Dingyi rubbed his left shoulder and looked at Li Mao with complex eyes. He didn't expect that his opponent would fight so hard that he was hit by Li Mao carelessly. Fortunately, his opponent's strength was exhausted and he was not injured. Seeing this, Lu Qing sighed and whispered in Sun Jian's ear. Senior brother Sun, you are experienced and not afraid of the stage. I have nothing to say. But since you insist, I will say something. First, attack the left side violently. What's the second? Sun Jian asked curiously. Lu Qing smiled and said, the second? F***ck him to death. Sun Jian couldn't help laughing at first. Then he put on a serious face, clenched his fist and growled. F***ck him to death. Chapter 156. F***ck him to death. As the words left his mouth, Sun Jian felt himself brimming with battle intent. Even his emotions were in high spirits. He took a step forward and walked towards the arena, only to see Li Mao struggling to get up. Li Mao shook his head and walked back, swaying unsteadily. When he met Li Mao, who was still a little dizzy, Sun Jian took the initiative to stretch out his fist and said sincerely, "Good job." Li Mao instinctively straightened his back and couldn't hide his smile. He clenched his fist and lightly bumped with Sun Jian's to complete the ceremony. "Senior brother Sun, come on." Sun Jian nodded. He passed by Li Mao and saw the road leading to glory and glory. This is the last battle of this game. Let me end it. This time, I'm not just going to make a pose. Sun Jian suddenly had some feelings when he went up along the stone steps. He was born in a professor's family. He was promoted to the university where his father studied through the affiliated kindergarten, affiliated primary school, affiliated middle school and key high school. He hardly suffered any setbacks and was never bullied by his classmates. At first, his purpose of learning martial arts was purely to show off in front of his childhood friends. Later, he used it to escape his father's increasingly higher requirements and took the martial arts club as his refuge to get peace and freedom. With such a mentality, of course he wouldn't have stage fright. But on the other hand, he didn't have the tenacity to face difficulties. When he shouted F***ck him to death, just now, he felt that his gentle and well-educated appearance was torn off, and the barbarism hidden deep in his heart was awakened. He had the impulse to challenge the big devil. When he stepped onto the arena, and saw the 1.9 tall iron tower, Sun Jian instantly felt that he was very small and insignificant. He had no choice but to look up at his opponent. It was just like how he usually looked up at his father, who was the leader of his subjects. In his heart, Sun Jian was so high that he could not look up to him, but also so fearsome. Sun Jian's frown, seriousness, and orders had created a deep shadow in his heart. He couldn't challenge the authority and was unwilling to do as he was told. Then he could only escape. Now he didn't want to be like this anymore. He had to face it eventually. Looking at the tall and mighty Jiang Dingyi, who seemed to be invincible, he roared secretly, F***ck him to death. Lu Qing didn't know anything about Sun Jian's psychological changes. He was very relaxed now and didn't have too much expectation for the final result. He was already satisfied with the development of today's matches. Yenjika had won the match on her first appearance and accumulated experience in dealing with dangerous situations. Li Mao had finally defeated the devil in his heart and obtained the victory he had been dreaming of. What else was there to be dissatisfied with? As for the final victory, it would be the most dazzling jewel at the top of the crown. It would be good to have it, but not having it would not damage the essence of the crown. At this moment, Li Mao returned to his seat amidst the applause and stopped in front of Lu Qing. Lu Qing extended his right hand and clenched it into a fist. "You can do it." Li Mao's eyes reddened again. He reached out his right hand, clenched it into a fist, and bumped it with Lu Qing's. "Thank you. Thank you for never giving up on me." Lu Qing wanted to recall some famous sayings to encourage senior brother Li Mao. If he couldn't remember, he would make one up himself. But the referee on the arena didn't give him the chance. After Jiang Dingyi and Sun Jian stood in their respective positions, the referee waved his right hand and announced the start of the last match. Sun Jian had more actual matches than Lu Cheng, so he knew to attack Jiang Dingyi's left shoulder, which was hit by Li Mao without Lu Cheng's reminder. When the word start reverberated, he suddenly bent down and moved to the enemy's left side quickly with snake steps. Straightening his spine, Sun Jian tightened his right leg and pulled it out, kicking toward Jiang Dingyi's left knee. Jiang Dingyi was good at strength but not flexible enough. He didn't compete with Sun Jian in body movement. Facing this, he quickly visualized the scene of the ground cracking and the volcano erupting in his mind. The trousers on his thighs suddenly straightened, outlining his well-defined muscles. Bam! A side kick bounced out with earth-shattering momentum and arrived first, colliding head-on with Sun Jian's whip kick. Bang! Sun Jian swung his right leg back. He felt sore at the place where the leg hit and almost lost his center of gravity. This made him deeply feel the gap in strength between them. Purely speaking of physical strength, he was weaker than Jiang Dingyi, but Jiang Dingyi also mastered meditation and had a short burst of visualization. Sun Jian gritted his teeth and didn't let the depression affect him. He stepped back with his right foot and straightened his back. Then his right fist suddenly hit Jiang Dingyi's left shoulder like a cannonball. He and Li Mao's 24 blizzard strikes were not in meditation and did not have the corresponding visualization method to coordinate. They could only rely on their experience and feelings to barely borrow a little strength during the process. It could be considered as mastery but not mastery. Therefore, once they encountered a situation where the enemy's strength was too great, there would be problems in the connection of the moves. They could not complete the borrowing of strength and could not make the fight more fierce and crazy. Just now, Li Mao was facing Feng Xiaoquan, who was exhausted and weakened in all aspects, so he barely used 24 blizzard strikes. But now Sun Jian obviously couldn't imitate his junior brother. But he also had his own advantages, that was he could fiercely attack the injured part of the enemy. Jiang Dingyi did not move his left shoulder, but simply used his right foot as a fulcrum to turn his body backward. At the same time, he straightened his right hand into a palm knife and fiercely chopped down in front of him. It happened to hit Sun Jian's fist. Sun Jian's right arm bounced back and quickly retracted his attack. Sun Jian didn't feel annoyed, instead he was a little bit happy. Did Jiang Dingyi's performance just now mean that his left shoulder was seriously injured, and it was almost impossible for him to use his left hand? He slid his feet and went to the left side of Jiang Dingyi. Then he opened his left hand and grabbed Jiang Dingyi's left hand like a fierce claw. Once Jiang Dingyi grabbed Jiang Dingyi's left hand, he would immediately break the tendons and dislocate the bones. Sun Jian was different from Li Mao and other members of the martial arts club who came from ordinary families. In the past, he had hired famous teachers to practice martial arts, so there were more than just 24 blizzard strikes. If he practiced the flower-splitting willow hand to a deep level, he could almost make the enemy lose an arm by grabbing and tearing. Jiang Dingyi's expression didn't change. He wriggled his spine and bounced his back to the right side to avoid Sun Jian's grab. Sun Jian was happy in his heart, so he directly caught up with Jiang Dingyi and attacked Jiang Dingyi's left side continuously. Jiang Dingyi used his legs to resist, sometimes changed his body shape, and sometimes dodged. But he couldn't get rid of Sun Jian, and was gradually forced to the edge of the ring. When Sun Jian was about to kill him while he was sick, Jiang Dingyi's legs suddenly stopped like two nails firmly nailed to the edge of the arena. His body suddenly turned around with the help of the rebound force. He raised his left arm and turned it into a guandao with the help of visualization. Then he swept it out in a horrible way. At this moment, he was like a general who was riding a horse to war, dragging a guandao and being chased by the enemy. Suddenly he tightened the reins of the horse, so that the horse stopped abruptly and raised its front hooves. Then he took advantage of the force to counterattack, and unexpectedly cut the enemy who was chasing him. The guandao style. Jiang Dingyi had been waiting for this opportunity to cut Sun Jian under his horse for a long time. Sun Jian rushed so hard that he couldn't avoid it. He could only take a breath forcibly, and raised his left arm to block on his side. Bang! Jiang Dingyi's left hand fiercely cut Sun Jian's left arm. The guandao style, which had been accumulating power for a long time, showed an amazing power and directly whipped Sun Jian into the air. Flying. Yan Zhika held Lu Cheng's left hand tightly, and her beautiful eyes were full of worries. She hoped that everything could be perfect today. When she won, the martial arts club could also win the game. Senior brother Sun took the initiative to fly. Lu Qing stared at the ring and comforted the girl. Sun Jian flew out. When he was about to land, he suddenly stretched out his hands and pressed on the ground with the strength of his fascia joints. Bang! His body suddenly bounced to another direction and narrowly avoided Jiang Dingyi's Guandao style, which followed closely. In the bouncing, Sun Jian turned over in the air and landed on the ground with both feet. Then he bounced again to change his position and finally stabilized his center of gravity. Catapult body movement. It was a martial art which was as famous as the modern blast fist and gun finger. It imitated the jump attack of the bullet. In the previous attack, if Sun Jian didn't fly out, his left arm would at least be fractured. It could be seen that the Guandao style was horrible after it broke out. As soon as Sun Jian steadied himself, he saw Jiang Dingyi pouncing on him aggressively. He didn't choose to avoid. Instead, he clenched his teeth and went to him directly. There was only one thought in his mind. I don't believe that your left arm is fine after being hit by Li Mao and using such a fierce Guandao style. I can't give him a chance to recover. Facing this, Jiang Dingyi's face finally changed slightly. They approached each other instantly. Sun Jian ducked and dodged to the side of the enemy. Then he used his hands, wrists, elbows, shoulders and other body parts to attack the enemy directly, as if he was practicing with a wooden man. Bang, 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 they kept fighting with each other. The fierce battle made the audience break out in cold sweat. When Sun Jian thought that he was going to be crushed by the enemy's strength, he suddenly found that the enemy's left arm movement was half a beat slower. He didn't have time to think carefully. He pushed his elbow horizontally and took advantage of the situation to attack. Puff! His elbow hit Jiang Dingyi's left arm, which was not strong enough, leaving a big gap on the side of his body. Chance! Sun Jian had no time to think carefully about the battle situation. Following his instinct, he straightened his elbow and threw out his forearm with the help of the rebound force and the joint force. Bang! His forearm with his fist hit Jiang Dingyi's ribs on the side. The strength was not too great, but it made the enemy scream and shrink his body suddenly. Sun Jian didn't show any mercy. He blocked the counterattack with his right hand, opened his left fist and caught the enemy. Then he took a step with his right foot and put it between Jiang Dingyi's legs. At this time, there was only one thought in his mind. F***ck him to death. Damn. He suddenly exerted his strength and threw his opponent to the edge of the ring not far away with his right leg as the fulcrum. Thump. Jiang Dingyi fell down with his back on the ground, accompanied by the audience's surprise and shouts. Sun Jian gasped and raised his right hand. He shouted secretly in his heart, "Cool." The referee also raised his right hand and announced the result. Round 5, Sun Jian wins. The final result, Songqing University Martial Arts Club wins. Chapter 157. The spectators who were breaking out in cold sweat heaved a sigh of relief. The whole stadium was filled with thunderous cheers for the long-awaited victory in this martial arts arena. Although they did not prepare trumpets or other items to assist them, they still created a lively atmosphere. Qian Ruoyu was in the midst of it. Her face was extremely ugly. She felt wronged and angry. She wanted to leave without a second more. I'm an adult, not a spoiled child. I have to bear the responsibility for what I did. She bit her lower lip with her white and neat teeth and secretly prepared herself. She didn't turn around and leave but waited for Jiang Dingyi's return. Jiang Dingyi was also quite depressed at this moment. He was unwilling to admit defeat. His meditation was not deep enough, and had not reached the level where he could control the details of his muscles. He was unable to forcefully pull back his center of gravity at the crucial moment and dodge. His fighting style was not guerrilla warfare. After being forced into close combat by Sun Jian, the numbness and pain in his left shoulder were magnified to the extreme. This was the cause of his defeat in an instant. If only I was not careless and bumped into Li Mao, he thought in annoyance. He felt that he had no face to face Qian Ruoyu and his footsteps became slower. When he walked back to the Dream Squad seating area, Qian Ruoyu took a deep breath and said, The main reason for today's loss is me. Dingy Xiaoquan, if you guys were at your peak condition when facing Sun Jian and Li Mao, your chances of winning would definitely be above 80%. I underestimated the enemy and lost to Yanjika too quickly. You guys had no choice but to exhaust yourselves in advance, which led to the loss. It's my fault. I apologize to everyone. After hearing Qian Ruoyu's words, not only Jiang Dingyi and Feng Xiaoquan, but even Yu Qiao and the other substitutes were stunned. They did not expect the proud little princess to not lose her temper and vent her anger on others. Instead, she started to reflect on herself. Was this considered a little more mature? Feng Xiaoquan came back to his senses and immediately comforted her. Ruoyu, it's not your fault. Our main failure was due to the lack of equal information. Yanjika of Songqing University Martial Arts Club hid her strength too well. No one would have thought that she had already achieved a small success in meditation and reached a higher level in 24 blizzard strikes. Yes, none of us expected this, Jiang Dingyi said. Qian Ruoyu felt better in her heart. She was touched and her eyes were red and about to cry. She took a deep breath, steadied her emotions, and pointed to the other side of the ring. Even if we lose, we don't want to lose face. Let's go over and say hello, lest others say that we don't have a good upbringing. Generally speaking, after the entire battle in the group arena had ended, both parties would have to meet and greet each other as a sign of politeness. However, this would often not happen. Of course, the victor would be happy to do so, but how could the loser be in the mood to do so? Lu Cheng imitated the professional martial arts competition he had watched and led the home team to clap their hands towards the stands as a sign of gratitude for their support. Waves of enthusiastic applause and cheers followed. At this moment, he saw Qian Ruoyu and the others coming over, so he called Sun Jian, Li Mao and Yanjika to welcome them. Qian Ruoyu glanced at the pure and beautiful Yanjika, then turned to Lu Cheng and exhaled. You guys played very well today. Lu Cheng was in a good mood and naturally became modest. He pointed at his girlfriend and smiled. It's mainly because we have a secret weapon that caused you to misjudge. Otherwise, it would be hard to say who would win. This was the truth. If both parties were to compare one-on-one, their own team was indeed inferior. Yanjika, who was praised, was proud, happy and shy. She glanced at Lu Cheng and turned her head to look to the side. Her expression couldn't be hidden from the observant people, which made Yu Qiao, Feng Xiaoquan and the others secretly sigh. Beauties are indeed taken. To Lu Cheng, a strong professional ninth pin at 19 years old might not be eye-catching, but to reach such a level in just half a year, people couldn't help but take him seriously. Therefore, they didn't feel like a fresh flower stuck in cow dung. They just felt that it was as it should be. Hearing Lu Cheng's honest words, Qian Ruoyu's mood eased a lot, and her self-reproach also lessened a lot. She revealed a faint smile and said, based on your current performance, there's really hope for you guys to advance from the group stage. I wish you guys better and better. Lu Cheng also smiled and replied, then we wish you guys better and better, and improve in every match. Qian Ruoyu suddenly felt that this person wasn't bad, and regained some of her spirits. She thanked him, and then led the Dream Squad back to the away team's changing room. Yanjika looked at their backs, rolled her eyes, and sighed. Not as delicate as I thought. Speaking of this, she couldn't help but laugh. Also not as turbulent as I thought. She vaguely felt a little regretful that she didn't see the real-life version of the melodramatic emotional entanglement. Yeah. Lu Cheng turned his head to look at her, and also felt a little regretful. Sun Jian and Li Mao didn't know anything about the gossip of the Dream Squad. After hearing Yanjika's words, they were at a loss. When they saw her and Lu Cheng looking at each other tacitly and smiling, as if they had a common little secret, they curled their lips and turned to leave. Let's go back to the changing room. Lu Cheng smiled and held Yanjika's little hand, declaring his sovereignty in front of thousands of people. Yanjika blushed slightly, but still generously let him hold her hand. She wanted to use this to get rid of any pursuits that might arise from today's competition. That was too annoying. Songqing University was a school with strict management. Although there was no lack of couples getting close to each other, they usually did so in the woods by the lake or on the streets. No one had ever held hands in front of so many people. Seeing this scene, many of the students had the urge to kick up a fuss. Some whistled, and some shouted loudly. The scene suddenly became interesting. Yenjika shyly lowered her head, quickened her pace, and hurried to the changing room. When she was about to reach the door, she realized that Lu Qing suddenly stopped beside her. She raised her head and saw Gizersher drinking wine at the door. Coach Sher, why are you here? Didn't you have something to do at the last minute? Lu Qing was equally surprised. Gizersher chuckled. If I didn't have something to do at the last minute, where would you get the chance to be in the limelight? If I were here, I don't know how nervously Mao would be. Besides, I'm old. I've been away from you youngsters for too long. I really don't know how to encourage you guys. Lu Qing and Yenjika suddenly understood Coach Sher's good intentions. Let me borrow your boyfriend for a few minutes. I have something to tell him. Gizersher looked at Yenjika with a smile. Yenjika was embarrassed and annoyed by the elder's teasing. She let go of her right hand and ran into the changing room without looking back. Lu Qing followed Gizersher to a secluded corner of the changing room. He smiled easily and said, I really thought you had something to do at the last minute, Master. He thought they had found the ancient mansion of Longhu Immortal. Gizersher laughed and looked at Lu Qing. What did you think I had to do? Well, didn't you mention last time that some friends came from afar to find the ancient mansion of Longhu Immortal? I thought they finally found it, and invited you to help. Lu Qing was excited and wanted to take this opportunity to inquire. Gizersher took a sip of wine and chuckled. They did find it. Last night they invited me to explore Zhaoshan Lake. In the end, it was just a villa with nothing. Zhaoshan Lake? Isn't it Weishui Lake? Lu Qing was stunned. He felt that his master and his friends had mistakenly fallen for it. Gizersher looked at him and said, Do you feel relieved after hearing this? Ah. Lu Qing was stunned at first. Then all the hair on his body stood up and his whole body tightened. What does master mean? Does he know that I have the Jindan? Gizersher chuckled and said, Brat, don't be nervous. Humans, unless they are really the best or the second best, grow up with a little bit of luck. The only difference is when you get it. Just like the golden scales, you can only turn into a real dragon after encountering a storm. As your master, I have lived for a long time. What have I not seen, and what have I not experienced? Why would I care about your little luck? A little adventure? Lu Qing was stunned. He calmed down a little and said, Master, when did you know? I only guessed it last night. Gizersher smiled proudly. Half a year ago, on the day of the martial arts club's welcoming day, I felt a strange power fluctuation near Weishui Lake. Unfortunately, it was a little far and I didn't find anything when I went there. After that, you showed a strong talent for meditation and seemingly unlimited physical strength. You displayed the frost force but awakened the power of flame. These things don't mean much when you look at them alone or put them together. After all, there are plenty of martial artists who awaken their talents later in life. But last night, when we explored the Longhu Immortal's side residence, I found out that he used ice and fire to imitate yin and yang to form the core. I immediately understood. Damn it, that's the only way to awaken the frost flame. Thus, I linked everything together, and went to explore the Weishui Lake alone. I found this thing. Hee hee, stinking brat, I've walked on more bridges than you have walked on. Do you really think you can hide it from me? I'm a martial artist with physical invulnerability. Cultivation is just a reference for me. What do you have to be afraid of? Gizersher fished out a half-burnt and half-frozen white bone carp from his pocket. With a casual shake of his hand, the carp turned into powder. Indeed, the older the ginger, the wiser. Lu Qing listened with admiration and fear. He confessed, Master, you guessed right. I was training by the lake and happened to encounter this carp. I got a little of Longhu Immortal's legacy from it. Speaking of this, he couldn't help but ask, Master, I've improved by leaps and bounds because of Longhu Immortal's legacy. Are you disappointed? Fortunately, I've seen the perseverance, temperament and fighting talent you've shown in the past 6 months. I'm satisfied. You're not the kind of person who's frivolous because of an adventure. Gizersher nodded slightly and said, I didn't find Longhu Immortal's villa in Weishui Lake. It seems that there's something fishy there. You can consider this matter after you've completely digested the legacy. Lu Qing thought for a while and took the initiative to ask, but digesting it is very dangerous. Every time I awaken it, I'll suffer a backlash. Master, do you have any ideas? He tacitly agreed that Geezer sure knew that he had obtained the Jindan. Seeing that his master was kind and not greedy, the worry and haze that had been hidden in his heart for half a year suddenly dissipated. Chapter 158. Backlash. Geezer sure was unusually serious. He chewed on the word and asked, "Let me ask you something. Do you want to be a martial artist or a cultivator in the future? Once you enter the high-ranked Dan stage, you can't regret it." Lu Qing grew up watching professional martial arts competitions and was influenced by them day and night. He had a dream and a pure and passionate love. He answered without hesitation, "Of course I want to be a martial artist." More importantly, the inheritance of the cultivators had been cut off. Relying on the records left behind to practice was twice the effort and half the effort. On the contrary, on the road of martial arts, there were teachers to guide you, lovers to consult, and so on. There were tons of relevant materials and companions to learn from and discuss with. Very good. Geezer sure praised and said, "Then you must always remember that martial arts is the main thing and cultivation is the secondary thing. Stones from other mountains can be used to improve jade, but it doesn't mean that it can be the jade you want. On the road of cultivation, the most taboo is to be indecisive, unwilling to make a choice, and unable to distinguish between priorities. Okay, tell me how you use it to digest it." Lu Qing said carefully, "It can help me recover from fatigue. I use this to constantly squeeze myself and improve my physical strength." Before he could finish, Geezer sure said unhappily, "Sure enough. Back then, this old man was out of breath because of you." Without waiting for Lu Qing's explanation, he sighed and said, "Not bad. You know how to purposefully use the adventure to improve your own ability instead of relying purely on the adventure. With such a temperament and willpower, I didn't take you as my disciple in vain." "Hey, continue." "Didn't you interrupt me?" Lu Qing complained in his heart. After thinking about what he had just said, he said, "It can also help me enter meditation and let me quickly conceal spirit and qi. After half a year of hard practice, I can enter meditation skillfully without it. I'm even close to the level of Deshang, but I still can't achieve inward vision." Geezer sure nodded slightly to confirm but didn't interrupt. "In addition to these 2 points, when I use it to the limit, its balance will be broken and a little power will leak out. After the backlash, it will merge into my body and create a supernatural ability." Lu Qing said honestly, "The first time it backfired, I almost died in Yanling. It's a bit like the physical invulnerability stage." Geezer sure said thoughtfully, "Longhu Immortal emphasizes the balance of ice and fire. The backlash of awakening the supernatural ability should be similar to the first time. With your current physical condition, you can try it." Lu Qing said weakly, "I've tried it. It's similar to the backlash of awakening the supernatural ability of flame." The corner of Geezer sure's mouth twitched. He was both annoyed and amused at the same time. "Brat, you've grown up. In philosophical terms, your subjective initiative is really strong. Master, you also know philosophy?" Lu Qing evaded the main point and dwelling on the trivial. "Do you think I'm illiterate? And, since you've already awakened the Frost special ability, I'll be able to teach you a few things after your arm recovers. As for the second round of awakening, don't be anxious. Wait until your fleshly body's blood and qi reaches the peak of the body refinement realm, and you'll be able to release and retract it freely before you attempt it. At that time, remember to look for me. With me watching over you, no matter how bad it is, I'll be able to protect your little life. TSK. Young people nowadays are so stupid and bold." Lu Qing felt guilty and didn't dare to respond. "For the time being, you should digest it at your own pace. Let me think about how to extract the essence and discard the impurities, and integrate the things of cultivation into martial arts." Geezer sure laughed self-deprecatingly. I have to be thick-skinned and ask for some research materials. Research materials? Lu Qing asked curiously. Geyser said with a faint smile. Do you think Longhu Immortal was the only cultivator in ancient times? The related heritage was discovered one after another. That's why we can be sure that this path leads to the same destination as martial arts. But we can't break free from the shackles. Because we live in the mountains all year round, the heritage is inevitably cut off. The military has collected a lot of relics and has a deeper understanding of cultivation. They have also specially selected a group of volunteers to walk this path for observation. If the things on paper are not put into practice, they are just empty talk. Speaking of this, he sighed. But the military's information won't be of much use to you. You want to walk the path of martial arts that incorporates part of the characteristics of cultivation, but it doesn't coincide with their current direction. You still have to see what my old friend can learn from the relics of Longhu Immortal. Don't be too anxious. Focus on training your body to the peak first. Yes, master. Lu Qing answered sincerely. It would be a great gain for him if his master could watch over him the next time he squeezed Jindan. Geyser nodded and resumed his playful look. Well, that's it. Go do what you need to do. Lu Qing was about to turn back to the locker room when he couldn't help but ask, Master, are you really not curious about this? Geyser smiled and said, Do you want to hear the truth or the lie? What's the truth? What's the lie? Lu Qing asked with the mentality of getting to the bottom of the matter. The lie is that I've been in physical invulnerability for many years and my path has long been established. The things of cultivation can only be used as a reference or a temporary use. It can't directly promote my improvement. So even though I've cooperated with the military for many years, I still haven't paid much attention to their research on cultivation. Geyser chuckled and said, As for the truth, I'm old and can't take it anymore. Even if combining cultivation with other things can help me advance further, I don't dare to try it rashly. Isn't it better to have an old friend to lead the way and a lively lab rat like you to experience it? What you can get, I have plenty of channels to get. That's true. Hearing the truth, Lu Qing was completely relieved and relaxed. Geyser took out a small flagon and took a sip. Humming a Chinese opera, he turned around and left leisurely. Watching his master leave, Lu Qing's mood was like the surface of a lake that calmed down after violent ups and downs. There were ripples in the calm and tranquility. He suddenly sighed and felt an inexplicable sense of loss. To him, the Jindan was the basis for rapid improvement in martial arts. It was the biggest and most unknown trump card, and the secret that he was most unwilling to let others know. It made him appear unique and full of confidence. When his master knew about its existence, he understood that similar things left behind by cultivators were rare. But not only did they exist, he seemed to have lost that unique feeling and was no longer full of confidence, so it was inevitable that he felt lost. But from another perspective, the Jindan itself contained too many dangers and uncertainties. With his master, a physical invulnerability mighty one, watching over him, he would be much safer. What made him truly unique and confident was not the Jindan, but the tenacity, perseverance, temperament, confidence, and fighting talent that had been awakened by the Jindan. They were his biggest reliance on his martial arts path. After understanding this, Lu Qing returned to normal and felt relaxed. It was as if he had removed a burden that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. He had removed the worry that he would lose his life due to the instability of the Jindan at any time. He took a step forward, still calm and confident, and walked to the door of the locker room. Geyser left the martial arts arena and walked towards the teacher's dormitory. Suddenly he made a sound and patted his head. Look at my memory. I forgot to ask the brat what he got. Forget it. If it's not a natal weapon, then it's an external cultivation elixir. When Lu Qing entered the locker room, Yenjeka had just come out of the shower. Her black hair was tied up with a black rubber band, looking fresh and attractive. Li Mao was walking back and forth excitedly, looking for someone to talk to. The sweat on his face had not disappeared. Obviously, he had not taken a shower yet. The others were busy with their own things. Seeing Lu Qing come in, Li Mao hurriedly shouted, Chung and everyone, it's my treat tonight. Let's go to the school restaurant to celebrate. He wanted to express his gratitude and happiness. Yenjika took out the ointment from the cabinet and jokingly said, Senior brother Li Mao, are you ignoring me and senior brother Sun Jian? We are also the protagonists today. If you want to treat, all three of us should treat. Sun Jian also echoed, That's right. Li Mao, do you want to steal the credit? I'm the last fighter standing in the arena. I'm the leading fighter. How can I let you treat yourself? Lu Cheng and the others understood that they did not want Li Mao, who was from an ordinary family, to spend too much money, so they followed suit. Li Mao was moved and embarrassed, but finally he agreed. Let me help you rub the bruise? Lu Cheng walked to Yenjika and took the ointment with a smile. Yenjika pursed her lips and looked at him with a smile. She snorted and said, Then I'll try your skills. After that, she turned around and sat on the edge of the bench. She unbuttoned her cuffs and rolled up her sleeves, revealing a part of her snow-white skin. Perhaps because of her delicate skin, the few bruises and red swollen bruises looked terrible. Lu Cheng picked up her wrist and applied the ointment on the red and swollen part of her fist. He rubbed it very carefully. Not bad. Yenjika bit her lower lip with her white teeth and looked at the whirlpool on top of Lu Cheng's head. She smiled shyly. Of course. I rub it for myself every day after training. My proficiency is already full. Lu Cheng answered humorously, feeling relaxed and happy. Yenjika saw Sun Jian, Lin Hua and the others leave one by one. Li Mao also entered the shower room to take a shower. She called in a low voice, Cheng, yes? Lu Cheng raised his head and looked at the girl. He saw that her eyes were as gentle as water. Thank you. Yenjika turned her head and looked to the side, whispering. She did not thank him now, but before. Lu Cheng smiled and said, Do we still need to say thank you between us? This was the answer that Yenjika pretended to be innocent before. Now that he used it, it immediately made the girl laugh and pout coquettishly. Lu Cheng looked at her and felt that he was unique again in this world. The only boy that Yenjika likes is me. Chapter 159. In the spacious changing room, a young girl wearing a white martial arts suit with black edges sat with her hands on both sides of her body, her quiet expression of shyness and happiness, and the boy who was crouching in front of her with his back bent as he carefully applied ointment on her body. Together, they formed a picture of beauty and youth. Their silent gazes from time to time was the finishing touch. Unconsciously, Lu Cheng rubbed away all the bruises and swelling. He reluctantly pointed at the girl's left foot. I remember you fought with Feng Shaoquan with your foot. You should have some bruises, right? Yenjika seemed to wake up from a dream. She quickly withdrew her foot and lowered her head shyly. No, I'll do it myself when I get back. She didn't wait for Lu Cheng's reply. She blinked and asked, Do I look normal now? Lu Cheng glanced at her and smiled. Much better than just now. While speaking, he gently put down the girl's right trouser leg carefully. Yenjika looked at him with a faint smile. She picked up her phone and looked at it again. Then let's go back. You've recovered, but I haven't. Lu Cheng didn't dare to stand up, so he just squatted and laughed. I've always had an illusion that you shouldn't be associated with things like drying quilts, washing clothes, and cleaning. Little fairies should stay away from the mundane world. Yenjika burst into laughter. Which girl lives in a vacuum? If I don't wash my clothes myself, should I wear them and throw them away? Do you want to help me wash them? That's fine too. Lu Cheng smiled and said seriously. Yenjika rolled her eyes and said, You're a rough man. Most of the time you just rub your clothes. I don't feel safe washing them for you. I'll teach you later. Speaking of this, she suddenly paused, feeling a little shy and sweet. Am I making a promise for a long time in the future? Feeling a little tipsy, she suddenly thought of a sentence she once read. Young people always make empty promises. When they were young, they didn't understand the length of time, the ruthlessness of time, the difficulties of the world, and the fickleness of human feelings. They always thought that promises and vows like a lifetime could be easily fulfilled. Yenjika, who was not yet 19, suddenly felt a little sentimental. Sure. Lu Qing didn't notice the twists and turns in Yenjika's mind and agreed happily. He always felt that it was a wonderful thing to have Yenjika's company, even if it was just housework. Yenjika gazed deeply at him and pursed her lips. Then you better remember what you said today. I remember it in a notebook. Lu Qing laughed. He always believed that a good memory was better than a bad pen. Feeling the abnormality that had not completely disappeared, he quickly started a new topic. Cool, how about going to the Songqing Ocean Aquarium tomorrow afternoon? Then he could go to the third place he had visited to enjoy the delicious food. The distance between the two places was less than 15 minutes. Sai, now that we're officially dating, we don't have much time to explore new areas. Whenever we have free time, we want to stick together. You really can't be both loyal and filial. Sai, that's a weird way to describe it. Yenjika blinked and said apologetically, I'm afraid I can't. I have to go to Tiantong Taoist Temple tomorrow afternoon. Lu Qing looked at her blankly. Why didn't she mention this before? I just heard it from my brother. Yenjika pursed her lips and said, after he was injured, he moved to Tiantong Taoist Temple to recuperate. The environment there is good and the air is fresh. The abbot is an old friend of my uncle in Songqing. It's a good place for him to recuperate. Well, an elder in my family knows that he's injured and is passing by. He plans to visit Tiantong Taoist Temple and wants me to go there too. The ocean aquarium can only wait until next week. Actually, I don't like this kind of gathering. It's always a little depressing to chat with unfamiliar elders. While talking, the girl felt wronged. She wanted to stay with Lu Qing. Lu Qing was disappointed when he heard that. But after seeing Yenjika's grievance, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and said with a smile, then I'll go to Tiantong Taoist Temple tomorrow afternoon. Yenjika didn't react for a while. Lu Qing laughed and said, let's go to Tiantong Taoist Temple on a date. Anyway, the scenery there was good. He heard that the food in the temple was good too. Who wants to go on a date with you? Yenjika said coquettishly. Then she asked, but I can't accompany you in Tiantong Taoist Temple. It's so boring to let you wander around there alone. Lu Qing answered with confidence. You can go in and chat with your elders and cousin for a while. Then you can find an excuse to come out. They can't stop you from going to the temple and climbing the mountain, right? You can go back at dinner time. I'll find a place to settle it myself. Yenjika was in the honeymoon period. How could she be willing to waste a rare weekend like this? Hearing that, she was quite moved. After thinking for a while, she said, okay. Anyway, there's a generation gap between my uncle and us young people. There's nothing to talk about. Then it's decided. Lu Qing clapped and smiled. Why did your cousin move to Tiantong Taoist Temple to rest? Doesn't he need to go to class? Yenjika sighed and smiled helplessly. He said that he can understand the curriculum content by self-study now. Until now, she realized that Lu Qing had been squatting. His posture was very awkward. She was puzzled and asked, why didn't you stand up? If I stood up just now, you would have called me a hooligan. Lu Qing rejoiced. He adjusted his pants and stood up slowly. I was too engrossed in the conversation and forgot about it. It shouldn't be obvious. Yenjika looked at him suspiciously. I always feel that you are hiding something from me. What were your hands doing just now? My pants were a bit crooked. I was adjusting it. Lu Qing lied through his teeth. He reached out his hand and said, go back. Otherwise, someone is always afraid that I'll become a big pervert. Yenjika was amused by his words. She gave Lu Qing her hand and let him pull her up. Then she said in a small voice, come do yes. After parting with Lu Qing, Yenjika carried the bag and walked back to the dormitory with light steps. When she opened the door, she saw Li Liantong, Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru looking at her quietly. They looked like they were going to interrogate her. What are you guys doing? Yenjika asked in surprise. Li Liantong sneered. You're eating and forgot to wipe your mouth. Yenjika was shocked and quickly wiped her mouth. Didn't Chung say it was normal? I've also checked it myself. Li Liantong suddenly laughed and said to Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru. See? He tricked you out. Quick, call me daddy. What are you guys betting on? Yenjika was embarrassed and angry. I bet that you and Luqing must be in full swing. They didn't believe me and put their dignity on the line. If they lose, they will call me daddy. Li Liantong smiled proudly. Shi Xiangyang and Zhong Yanru were both amused and angry. They first called daddy in grievance and then looked at Yenjika with a disappointing look. Ku, how can you let Qing get what he wants so easily? Yenjika's face was pink. She said stubbornly, I didn't admit it. I just touched my mouth casually. Li Liantong laughed. Even if I didn't trick you, I'm sure. Didn't we go to cheer you on? After the competition, we wanted to take a photo with you, Heroine Yen, so we went to the locker room and waited. We waited and waited. When everyone else had left, you and Luqing still hadn't come out. A man and a woman in a room together, and you are an official couple. As long as he is still a man, he will definitely have bad thoughts. If you don't cooperate, he will definitely come out soon. How is it possible that the locker room door didn't open again after 10 to 20 minutes? Yenjika was speechless. Her face was burning with embarrassment. She couldn't wait to crawl into bed and hide under the blanket and never talk to Dirty Tong again. See, you admitted it. Li Liantong spread her hands proudly. Zhong Yanru saw that Yenjika was so embarrassed that her heart softened. She quickly changed the topic. It's natural for me to kiss my boyfriend. What's there to say? Before she could finish her words, Yenjika slid close to her and covered her mouth with her hand. Her delicate face was as red as a big piece of red cloth. Compared to Dirty Tong, Ruru's name was more lethal. The girls laughed and joked for a while. Shi Xiangyang panted and said, Okay. Didn't you want to take a photo with Heroine Yen? Seize the opportunity when she hasn't changed her clothes. I'll be the first. Li Liantong jumped to Yenjika's side, held her hand and posed. At the same time, she said with emotion, Ku, you look so beautiful when you wear the martial arts suit. You make my heart beat so fast. I wonder if I should take you back from Luqing. Yenjika pursed her lips and smiled. First you have to beat him. Li Liantong complained. Then I can only settle for the second best. Find a boyfriend who is good at martial arts. That will make me feel very safe. Not really. Many people who practice martial arts have bad personalities and bad tempers. They will make you feel even more insecure. Don't find a boyfriend for the sake of finding one. Yenjika thought for a while and said. Li Liantong was stunned. I'm just a love-struck fool. You don't have to be so serious. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Shi Xiangyang raised her phone and shouted. Click. The beautiful scene froze on the screen. While they were taking photos, Luqing was strolling on the street toward his own dormitory. He was recalling the beautiful moment just now and sighing from the bottom of his heart. He thought that since his master knew about his jindan, he might as well take the opportunity to confess to Yenjika. However, there were too many people in the locker room at the beginning. Besides, he was intoxicated by the kiss and completely forgot about it. He couldn't find a chance to tell her. When they parted, he wanted to pluck up his courage, but felt that it was not the right time. I'd better tell Ko after I've digested the jindan. Luqing thought. He vaguely understood that on one hand, this decision was to keep it a secret. On the other hand, he liked Yenjika so much that he was afraid that this was a dream that he would wake up from. He felt a little guilty and not confident enough. He always felt that he was not good enough for this girl. Therefore, he had to work hard to improve himself, so that one day he could confidently and frankly tell her everything. Back in the dormitory, he sat in the living room, chatting with Yenjika while looking at the pictures and corresponding introductions that he had downloaded earlier. Hey, Qing, you're taking marine biology as an elective? Kai Zhongming passed by behind him and glanced at the content on his phone. Luqing smiled and said, No, I'm doing homework for next week's date. Humph. Kai Zhongming raised his middle finger to show his disdain. The next morning, Luqing was delighted to find that because of the awakening of the power of frost, his physical quality had improved in a short time. The injury on his right arm was healed one day earlier, and he could do restorative training now. In other words, he could put into practice the Thunder Roar Zen technique that he had been practicing for the past few days. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.